finish.
Listening.
4-2-8.
Watching.
I can do better.
Studying.
The jury's still out. This kid's got to show me something.
But he does have raw talent.
That's got to count for something.
There will be questions.
Hold on.
Issues.
There may be a trade.
Differences of opinion.
If we don't get this guy, the next team will.
Media distractions.
Why isn't that next quarterback Jamarcus Russell?
As the pressure builds, the stakes get higher. The calls pour in.
Stand by, transfer. No. Call me back when you got something good.
Fatigue sets in.
Hit it.
If you slip, you're beat. If you're beat, you're done. That's how it works in the NFL. You need to look at yourself in the mirror. Know you've left it on the field and done all you can. Finally, it comes down to your turn.
We've got one shot to get him.
Is it integrity? Heart? Courage? Leadership? Dedication? Here's your shot.
Listen up. We're on the clock.
Now, make the call.
Welcome to the 2007 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
Welcome to our coverage of the draft, now on ESPN 2, continuing coverage. Gavel to gavel. We pick up midway through the second round. We'll take you all the way to the conclusion tonight of round number 3, the longest first round in the history of the draft, and we were proud to say that we were here to see it here in the 72nd National Football League Annual Selection Meeting. Once again, everybody, if you're just tuning in, where have you been? I'm Chris Berman, and along with Steve. You were a lefty.
I'm relieving a Hall of Famer.
Wait a minute, you're over there with Monday Night. Oh, you've come.
I ran them out of the place.
Whoa. Ron Jaworski's with us. Oh, wait a minute now. Oh, you got the taste of the big booth. You come back to slum it with us. I see.
Come back to my friends.
Slum it with the studio guys. I get it. Ron Jaworski's with us. Keyshawn Johnson. You ready to keep going?
Jaws will energize you. Jaws will energize you.
It's time to rock and roll.
Can we eat on the set right here in front of everybody?
Yeah, we can.
I'm starving. Being around Jaws is like having a cup of espresso, Keyshawn. You're gonna get jolted.
No more. You know what we do about now? We do this, right? Fourth quarter. Let's go.
All right. So Keyshawn Johnson still with us here, the number 1 pick overall back in 1996, back with the New York Jets, entering 11 years of football, Carolina. Chris Mortensen, Mel Kiper, he's gone nowhere. Not even the bathroom.
He went once.
What? Sorry, thank you for that. Let's write it down. What was his time going to the bathroom? 4.28. At any rate, if you tune in late, here's what happened that doesn't at the top of the draft, which seemed to go kind of to form. We started with Jamarcus Russell, quarterback, LSU, going to Oakland. Then Detroit did pick another wide receiver, Calvin Johnson, but this is a different one. Cleveland did not pick Brady Quinn. More on that shortly. They picked Joe Thomas out fishing with his dad in Lake Michigan, the big tackle from Wisconsin. Gaines Adams, the first defensive player. No Gaines Adams. Tampa Bay is hoping he goes with the Bucs. Then Arizona goes to Levi Brown, the tackle from Penn State. LaRon Landry, again, Landry going to Washington with the 6th pick with the safety from LSU. Minnesota held their breath and got mercurial running back Adrian Peterson, running inside all those games. Then Jamal Anderson, defensive end, Arkansas, the first pick for Bobby Petrino's era in Atlanta. Miami was the first real huge curveball in this draft, and that's Ted Ginn, the very ultra-fast punt return, kick return receiver from Ohio State, but he went all the way at 9 to Miami. Houston took Amobi Okoye, the 19-year-old defensive tackle, lived his first 12 years in Nigeria. What a great story that is. Defensive tackle Louisville goes to Houston. San Francisco picked the very productive inside linebacker from Mississippi, Patrick Willis. And then the Buffalo Bills, circling one wagon at a time, drafted Marshawn Lynch, the running back from Cal. Remember, they lost Willis McGahee. Later on, of course, the story was Brady Quinn. The wait, and the waiting is the hardest part, which Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers once sang, but then eventually he went not to Cleveland at 3, but to Cleveland at 22 in a trade they made with the Dallas Cowboys. So now we've had some quarterbacks go in the second round. Cobb, Beck, Stanton. We still have more time in the second round for Trent Edwards. 6 hours and 8 minutes was the first round. We've seen 11 trades thus far, which is amazing because the first one we had was the 14th pick. So once they turned on the faucet, no one could stop the water. There were more trades. So now we're back to the second round where the 49th pick overall and the Cincinnati Bengals have gone running back. Bengals earlier in the day going defensive back Leon Hall. Now they pick Kenny Irons, running back Auburn.
Rudy Johnson, Auburn. You go back to that War Eagle program with Kenny Irons to be a complimentary back. You know, there could be that 1-2 punch. This is a guy that had some nicks. Minor injuries this year. Productivity was down. But you go back to 2005, he was outstanding. Showed Cadillac Williams type ability. You see him here catching the football, the elusiveness and the ability to make people miss in the open field. Runs hard. He's a willing blocker. The kid has an awful lot of ability. If he'd have been healthy all year, you'd have probably been looking at a guy who would have drawn some late first-round consideration. Tough football player. You can work him in the mix with Rudy Johnson. Gives Marvin Lewis's offense in terms of that running attack a little bit more security, knowing that Kenny Irons can do a job for
It might surprise some of those following the Bengals because Kenny Irons is value right here. But a lot of people said they go defense, defense, defense on day one. Maybe slipping an offensive lineman. Nobody talked about running back, but he is a guy, as Mel mentioned, could have been a first-round pick had he come out a year ago.
And now we start with another running back. Tennessee, remember, one Henry for another, right? Travis Henry out, Chris Henry in.
This is not the Bengals, Chris Henry.
No, it's not. He comes in ready to go, ready for action, sir. And he's the running back from Arizona, and he goes to Tennessee.
Thing with this kid is physically gifted. 5'11 and a quarter, 230 pounds, ran a 4.39 to 4.43 at the combine. Vertical 36 inches, did 26 reps. You expected him to be just one of these guys that could just stampede defenders and would put up 140, 160 yards in every game. That was not the case. There were games where he was averaging 3.5 or less, 3.2 or less a carry. Was not a big factor in a number of games. Did have the Oregon game where he ran wild, so you saw glimpses and flashes of dynamite ability, but he didn't really translate all that physical prowess into consistent productivity running with the football, or he'd have gone higher than this. Some thought maybe somebody would reach in the late first, early second. He still becomes a second-round pick here at pick 50, so probably goes a little higher than his productivity indicated.
Well, here's speed, and Chris Henry and Kenny Irons, who we just saw at the combine. Understand it's not the fastest clocking of all, but still they were running on the same track. Cincinnati made Chris Henry to Tennessee pretty fast.
When you need a running back, you don't always have to reach and go up and get a guy. You can always find a quality running back of value in the second and third rounds, like a Curtis Martin, or even a guy like a Julius Jones that I've played with.
Well, it tells you that Lendell White, they have concerns about him. They got him in the second round last year. They let Travis Henry go. They talked to San Diego about Michael Turner. But, you know, this is a guy, I kept hearing, he wasn't productive. The one thing about running backs, you do like to see productivity in college, and this guy was not. He was a workout guy. So, you know, there was kind of an iffy proposition on him.
But more, when you look at Tennessee last year, it was Travis Henry who really resurrected their offense. People want to talk about Vince Young and the great job he did. Yes, he was terrific, but it was the running game that really got him going. So clearly, losing Henry, now they need a guy to come and replace him. I think they have the guy.
But just to talk about Lendell White for a minute, they haven't completely given up on Lendell White. What they like to do is get him into shape. They like him, else they wouldn't have drafted him. They have some character issues there, obviously. That's why he went in the second round last year. But if he gets his act together, Norm Child is going to stick with him at the running back position, at least in the beginning of the season.
If he gets his act together.
In shape. Football. Come on here. Smoking.
Well, the New York Giants are on the clock. There's fans certainly that have waited this pick out. Giants, St. Louis, Dallas coming up on them after the second round begins.
We've got one shot to get him.
I'm Jamarcus Russell. I'm Alan Branch.
I'm Paul Posluszny.
I'm Brady Quinn. I'm Troy Smith. We're on the clock.
That's good. That's good.
You're watching NFL Draft on ESPN. ESPN.
Not really giving details right now. We just we've made our decision, and that's what we're sticking to.
First choice NFL draft. They did not finish well last couple of years. They did get the playoffs.
Flex is my man, but he does not show up all the time.
And the thing about Eli, when he lost Amani Toomer last year to injury, he lost a guy he knew would always be in the right place at the right time. And then you get Plexico Burress all over the map. And Shockey, is he hurt? Isn't he hurt? So, yes, they needed to get Eli some help, Ron.
There's no question about it. When you select a franchise quarterback, you got to surround him with quality personnel. I still believe they got to move toward the offensive line to protect him. He took a beating last year.
All right, so here's the depth chart. Plexico is, at times, he's an interesting trade coming up, which we're going to have to get to. But I mean, they have talent, there's no question, but Steve Smith's slot, obviously completely different type of receiver than Plexico, and Amani Toomer.
And he can play inside. He can do some of the same things that Keenan McCardell did, like I mentioned before. They have a big receiver in Plexico Burress right there with him. And Plex is not the best mentor for him, but Tom Coughlin is right there, and he'll put the whip to him.
I hate to jump over here to leave the New York Giants here, but let's keep talking about another Southern Cal receiver. We've been talking about Mike Williams, the former #1 pick of the Lions, getting traded to somebody. He's a former Southern Cal receiver. He just got traded. The Oakland Raiders, with Lane Kiffin, his former receivers coach at Southern Cal, now the head coach at Oakland, just traded for Mike Williams from Detroit, and they get Josh McCown, backup quarterback. So the Raiders now have a veteran quarterback. They get another receiver, and Mike Williams, who Lane Kiffin obviously still believes in. And I say, still watch out for Randy Moss moving this weekend, possibly.
It's more interesting, and you mentioned Mike Williams, because late last season, he started coming on. He had some big catches against Dallas late in the season. Mike Martz was starting to believe that he could become a receiver you can count on. He got better as the season wore on and became productive.
And the thing about it, we all have to remember is now he's going back into a system that he's familiar with that was at Southern Cal. And Lane Kiffin, now he can do some things, maybe get into shape, not show up late for meets, trust the guy.
What a novel idea.
Hey,
what a novel idea.
It's kind of the way it goes.
Show up to the meetings.
Because when you're disgruntled, Jaws, and you don't like being somewhere, you'll always give your best.
So this is a new leaf on life for him.
Hey, that's just the way it is. Hopefully it all works out for him, because if it doesn't work out for him, he'll be like everybody else when it doesn't work out. He'll be at home somewhere working for UPS.
He needed a change of scenery, but like Jaws said, Martz said that he didn't really like Williams coming out of college. Obviously, it didn't go well last year when Martz first came in there. But the more he worked, they got him working pretty hard in practice in November. They thought, hey, he might have some time. In fact, Martz says even when he's heavy, he goes, he's got more ability than I thought. The only problem is he came in and dropped a couple passes in games, and surely I think that kind of set him back right there. He had to move on. Change of scenery, especially now with Calvin Johnson on board.
I want to ask Keith, the year of inactivity, Mort, that he had prior to coming out. I mean, he didn't play any football. He goes into the NFL. That's got to be a factor that hurt Mike Williams initially. He played for two different coaches, two different offenses. To me, this change of scenery better get him going.
Well, when you're young, you can't do that. Veteran players may be able to sit several games, even a year, to come back and produce and play well. When you're young, you're 19, 20 years old, you don't really know what to expect going into the NFL.
One of the complaints I heard about him from the Lions coaching staff is that this guy walked into the league with a sense of entitlement. In other words, give me the job. I mean, I'm your first-round pick. Give me the job. I don't have to practice hard. I'm the guy. I'll show up on game days. That doesn't work in this league.
But also, we always talk about fit when we talk about players. Mike Williams was a bad fit for the Detroit style of offense. When you look at Mike Martz receivers, they're quick, darting-type receivers. They don't do that sit-down, play and break.
But they didn't draft it. They didn't draft it.
I know it, but he never adapted to their style of offense as well. So the best thing, as Keyshawn said, is give him a new lease on life, see if he could get it going with Kiffin.
I definitely believe that he'll do well in Oakland with Kiff.
Well, Mel hopes so.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers of McCown and Mike Williams for a fourth-round pick. Raiders, quarterbacks, receivers, all sorts of stuff. We'll be back in just a moment in New York.
Sorry, that trade was too big not to get.
Right there. Go, 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 go.
The Kia Spectra, 35 miles per gallon and fun to drive. Now with 0% APR plus $1,000 bonus cash.
Yikes, you got the middle, but that's okay. You got Wendy's new Steakhouse Double Melt. You know how good the middle can be. Caramelized onions and mushrooms, bacon, creamy Swiss, and peppercorn sauce melted in the middle of 2 hot and juicy, fresh, never frozen beef patties. You've got good move, Mr. 14B. You just landed in the best position to do what tastes right.
Jorge.
Yeah.
What's going on with your hat, man?
What's wrong with my hat, man?
I mean, it doesn't look like a ball player's hat. I mean, it looks all brand new, you know?
Just come out of the box.
I'm a catcher, man. I never had to wear that thing.
You gotta break this thing in. Hey, Wally. Wally. Hey, it's not what you think.
This is the ultimate indoor RC helicopter. Introducing Reflex from Air Hogs. The new radio-controlled copter with dual thrust propellers for precision control. Forward, backward, up, down, left, and right. Take Reflex places no other copter has gone before. Amazing precision control, indoors and out. Small enough to land in the palm of your hand. Powerful enough to take to the skies. Amazing performance at the touch of your fingertips. You get the Reflex with the dual thrust propellers, the 6-way controller, the AC charger, backup rotors, and the display case. Plus, we'll also include our brand new flight simulator, so you can use it on your PC for even more outrageous fun. And you can get all this for 2 payments of $34.95. It's Reflex from Air Hogs. Must be 18 years or older to call or log on.
To order, call 1-800-618-2296. That's 1-800-618-2296. Call now.
The draft continues on ESPN2. Trey Wingo here with you, and thanks to Coors Light and the video conferencing, we bring in now the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, Marvin Lewis. Marvin, you take Leon Hall, the cornerback, 18th overall selection in the first round. What did you like most about Leon Hall out of Michigan?
Well, we really liked Leon's ability to run and cover. He's been really a complete player. His time there at Michigan. He's done things that you have to do in the NFL. He's played off coverage, he's played quarters, he's played man, he's played 1/3. So he's really demonstrated the abilities and the techniques that you need to play at this level.
This is the first draft that we've had since the new player conduct policy has been put in place, Marvin. Obviously, that was a big concern in Cincinnati this past season. How much did the idea of this new player conduct policy go into your decision to draft or not draft players?
Well, it has nothing really to do with the player conduct policy. Just, again, as I've said many times, we just got to make sure that the guys we take, we're not buying into the bargain a little bit when a guy slides and has different issues in his background. We're at a point right now where we've been a little bit unlucky in those things, and so we can't have them trip us up anymore. I'm spending too much time doing interviews like this talking about it.
Well, that's only one of the we want to talk to you about a lot of things, Marvin, but obviously that is one of them with all the problems that have gone on in Cincinnati in this past season. You must have a penchant for running backs out of Auburn because you take Kenny Irons in the second round. You already have one that's pretty good there in Rudy Johnson. What do you like about Kenny?
Well, I really thought Kenny gave us another asset to have on our football team. Chris Perry's been injured. We're unsure of when he'll be back from his injury. We have our third down back has been Kenny Watson. So Kenny Irons was the back, the position we had rated, and the player we had rated up there the highest. And so we really feel it fits a need, and also is a good player that can make people miss.
What's the one thing else you need to address on draft weekend to get the Cincinnati Bengals back into the playoffs? The position that you feel you still need to shore up?
Well, we still want to keep adding some young defensive players, and we'll continue to see what happens down the line offensively. But there was a run on some guys there in the middle of that round, and so kind of took us out of the defensive market.
Marvin, we appreciate the time. You know it's late on the first day of the draft when Marvin comes up with a tie a little undone. Marvin, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you later on down the road.
Thank you.
As we continue on Coors Light video conferencing, we want to bring in the general manager of the New York Football Giants, and that is Jerry Reese. Jerry, a lot of people thought you might go offensive line in the first round. Instead, you go Aaron Ross, the cornerback out of Texas. What did you like most about him?
Well, Aaron Ross, he gives us a side speed corner to throw into the mix. He's productive around the ball, makes a lot of plays on the football. We like that about him. I think he had 6 interceptions, like 19 pass breakups. And also, you know, he gives us an option as a punt returner. He's had 3 punt returns in his career for touchdowns, so we like that about him as well.
This is
size.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he fits what we're trying to do now, I think. You know, Steve Spagnuolo gives us, you know, characteristics of players that he liked defensively, and he fits the bill for us in that way. You know, the big corner can put his hand on people, and we like him in that aspect as well.
This is your first draft as a general manager. You've been with the Giants for a while. We just talked to Marvin Lewis. How much in your room, in your draft board discussions, did you debate talent versus character in light of what's been going on in the NFL in the last weeks with the new player policy?
Trey, we've always, with the New York Giants, we've always, you know, took that into account, the character issues. So that's not new with us. We've always, from ever since I've been with the New York Giants, we've always took the character flaws into consideration. That's not new for us.
The offensive side of the ball addressed in the second round. What do you like about Steve Smith?
We like Steve Smith. He's a gamer. We like him. He's been steady out there in a winning program for a long time. He's played a lot of football for them. Quarterbacks like this kind of receiver. You know, if you throw the ball to this guy, he's going to make a play for you. He can catch the ball and do something after the catch. So he's steady. I don't know, you can call him spectacular like some of the other receivers that went a little higher up top, but this guy is steady. We think he'll be a solid contributor in our receiver corps.
Jerry, what do you need to see out of Eli Manning this year to develop him farther as a quarterback and take the Giants where they need to go, which is farther into the playoffs?
Well, we just need Eli to play within himself and be the leader of the team, and don't try to do too much. I think we've asked him to try to do too much at some point. But we want Eli to play within himself and make the plays that he's supposed to make. I think things will slow down for him a little bit this time. I think into your third season as a full-time quarterback, I think things slow down for you. So we expect him to play well for us.
Jerry, we appreciate the time and best of luck mining for gold as the draft continues, day 1 and day 2.
Thanks, Trey.
Well, you heard Jerry talk about one of the things they need, guys, as we're back on the NFL Live set with Mark May, Sean Salisbury, and Michael Smith. More consistency is what they're hearing out of Eli Manning. Can they get that out of him, especially now that they've gotten him another wide receiver to throw to?
No, because if you're going to get more consistency out of your quarterback, Eli Manning, you better protect him with the offensive line. That's an area they needed to address in this draft. They didn't get that done thus far. They're going from the outside in, getting a cornerback and a wide receiver. If you're Eli Manning, you're saying, I lost Tiki Barber. I don't have anybody to block up front for Brandon Jacobs. I don't have anyone to protect me as a quarterback. So right now, I don't care how many receivers you get, you need to be protected up front, and the Giants don't have the players right now to fill those holes.
And, Mark, maybe they'll address that as this draft continues to roll on. Getting Aaron Ross in the first round, obviously a corner that they needed, and Steve Smith, who is a finisher. The guy knows how to close, a good route runner, and in the Meadowlands with the weather and all that, you need a guy who can do that, who is consistent. Now, with Eli Manning, for me, I believe in the third year, guys do start to get it and start to understand. Things do start to slow down. What Eli's got to do now is become the closer his brother is. First 8 games you saw in that graphic, been pretty good. The last 8 games, and you can't have that because once you get to December and January, you have got to find a way to get it done. I believe he'll make quantum leaps this year in New York.
I can tell you something about Jerry Reese. He is not a reach-for-need guy. He takes the best available player. If that player happens to match a need, cornerback does, that's where he went. But you mentioned Peyton Manning. Let me say this about Peyton. As great a quarterback as Peyton Manning is, Bill Polian in Indianapolis has done everything possible his entire career to ensure that quarterback is successful, drafting receivers in the first round, drafting running backs in the first round, keeping a line in front of him, even if it means sacrificing on defense. They have defensive needs this year. Look at what they did. They're getting him another Brandon Stokely and Anthony Gonzalez. So long as the Giants continue to put pieces around Eli Manning, and like you heard Jerry Reese say, not ask him to do too much, I think he'll be successful. Maybe not Peyton Manning successful, but successful.
And Tom Coughlin understands that, and as Jerry Reese does, that there's a sense of urgency because Tom will not be coaching in 2008 with the Giants unless they find a way to get it done this year.
And the biggest problem for Eli is he continues to develop maybe the fact that they don't have that dynamic runaway back in Tiki Barber anymore. They've got Reuben Drones and Brandon Jacobs, basically the same guy. Okay, there has been a trade between the Cowboys and the Browns, and I believe the Browns have moved up in this round to take the cornerback Eric Wright. In this trade, the Cowboys get a 3rd-round pick, a 4th, and a 6th-round pick. The Browns receive a 6th-round pick, and they get the Cowboys' 2nd-round pick, the cornerback Eric Wright out of UNLV. Why is this interesting? Well, Eric Wright is one of those guys with significant character flags on his resume. You look at what happened to him. There you see his physical attributes at UNLV, but according to the LA District Attorney Office, the woman testified positive for date rape drug an 18-year-old woman in the March of 2005. There are issues with Eric Wright. A lot of people like his ability, but now the Browns are making a move up, Michael, to get a guy that has a pretty big flag on his resume right now.
Well, this is a flag that waves. There are several teams, I can tell you, that would not touch him. He was one of the players that they said, we will not draft this guy. You know, conduct policy, whatever, we don't believe that he is worth a draft choice. But the interesting thing about the Browns giving up all these picks to get him, I mean, you take a Brady Quinn, you got to get some pieces around him to continue helping him. Yeah, you got Braylon Edwards and Kellen Winslow or whatever. Upgrade that running game. Continue to upgrade that offensive line. They got to make sure he's successful.
And with Joe Thomas and with Brady Quinn, this may put a little tarnish on what they have done so far.
Well, it will. Let's make sure we're clear on what Eric Wright has been involved with. He was arrested in March of 2005 on suspicion of rape and drug possession after allegedly giving an 18-year-old woman some pills. According to them, the police found 136 ecstasy pills in the apartment shared by Wright and a teammate. So this is not, it's one thing, I guess, 136, that is a significant number, and these are other fairly substantial charges here of rape and drug possession here, guys. This is not, for lack of a better term, a traffic violation we're looking at here.
And if you're looking at character issues, this is one of them. You explained that, Mike. But I think when you look back on this situation down the road, they're hoping that he's cleaned up his act. They're looking at a player that had first-round draft pick potential if he didn't have these off-field problems. They're thinking they got to steal at this point of the draft. But the bottom line is, from this point on, he's getting a second chance. That's what this is about. That's what the new laws or the new rules in the NFL is about, giving players a second chance. He's getting a second chance.
Yeah, but I would ask, is it worth it? Is it worth the risk? Hang on a second. Is it worth the risk of wondering if, in fact, hey, is this guy going to work out? Is he not? Do I got to babysit him at 11 o'clock on a Thursday night? All the time. You're a professional. You're getting paid. I ask you this, with the money now and all this, then what happens? Now, not questioning what kind of a player he is. Sure. This guy's a player. But now you got to get to the point where you're dealing with the NFL, because teams now can also be get themselves in trouble with money and everything else if, in fact, he violates this conduct.
Well, let's go back to something you said earlier about this tarnish and what they've done this year so far. Let's give Phil Savage and Romeo Cornell, who comes from New England.
Absolutely.
And that's a big character program there. The benefit of the doubt, they've researched this guy. If his football character, that's what this team needs right now, because they've had some issues with Braylon Edwards and Kellen Winslow and some other guys in terms of immaturity. If this guy's football character is okay, and this was a mistake, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt now to say that they researched this, then maybe this works out.
But the issue is you can't just say it's football character anymore.
Yeah.
Roger Goodell, the commissioner, has come out and said, listen, it can't just be about football. It has to be about everything.
What did I say about this, too, earlier in this draft? I said that, you know what, was about the flag waving. If it's not waving, this one's waving a little bit like you mentioned. But if the guy helps you win, remember now, Romeo Cornell's on the hot seat as far as keeping his job. So if they think that this kid can come in and play, you're willing to hedge a little bit. We had this conversation leading up to the draft about these type of players. Now it's a hedge, because you're saying, well, we're going to hope he's going to help us, because a guy like this with character, he better be a darn good football player, better contribute yesterday if you're going to take this risk.
And let's remember this, the NFL has the deepest pockets of any sports organization. They're going to do their due diligence, particularly now. A background check. They're going to talk to his parents. They're going to talk to his girlfriend. They're going to talk to his high school coach. They're going to make sure that he knows that this may be his last chance. And they're going to talk to the individual, the player, to make sure that they have a good gut feeling about him and his future with his football team.
Just to make sure we're clear on everything that went on with Eric Wright. This happened when he was at USC. Eventually, police declined to press charges, but USC upheld a suspension. He then decided to transfer and go to UNLV. So that is the book, and that is the red flag that we've been talking about with Eric Wright. Obviously, the Browns think it's not that big of a deal. We'll see what happens. Let's go back to New York and Chris Berman.
All right, gang, thank you very much. So, obviously, Eric Wright was going to be one of the players who was going to be debated. That began, as Trey and company said, at USC. And so now you have a difference of opinion here. So let's talk about first Eric Wright, the player, Mel. And we know that, at USC, and he had shown some big-time ability. By the way, as far as I know, no relation to the Eric Wright, who was one of the best corners in football in the 80s with the San Francisco 49ers. So let's not get that.
Boom, before all the talk came out in the last couple months about penalties and the ramifications of off-the-field issues cropping back up again, this kid had a chance, you would have thought, to be a late first-round pick. That 6 to 8 month situation where if a kid has a problem going through the draft process, then it's more of an issue with some teams. This happened several years ago at USC. Been fine at UNLV. I talked to them. They had no issues. He was a heck of a player at USC, no question about that. You're talking about pick number 53. I had him at 42, and that was taken into consideration the concerns about the off-the-field issue. He could have very easily, had he performed at a high level throughout his career, never had an issue at all, he'd have been right there with Darrelle Revis and certainly right there with Leon Hall in the middle of the first round.
He's lost himself some money. If this pick had gone in the middle of the first round, then yes, I think it's a spirited debate, and you can still obviously argue it. If it's the Cincinnati Bengals, it's a big red flag, but it's not. It's the Cleveland Browns, and he's cost himself money here.
In the beginning of this whole entire draft, I talked about this one individual person that can jump up and do some things. He would have been originally probably a top 15 pick had he stayed at USC and not gotten into trouble. But you got to remember, Romeo Crennel comes from a background with Bill Belichick and those guys in New England. But he doesn't make the call here. Phil Savage makes the call. And Phil Savage drafted guys in Baltimore that worked out for him that may have had some small flags underneath their belt.
This is a situation that's working out exactly the way I thought it would work out. We talk about the character issue against talent. When they're sitting in that war room and you look, you see Eric right on the board. The football guy is going, yeah, this guy can cover. He can play man-to-man. He can jam at the line. He can shut a guy down one-on-one. And some of the guys do the background research going, well, he's got this flag, this flag, this flag. Then Romeo Crennel and Phil Savage and go, you know what? We got to win football games. Can the guy play football? Ultimately, that wins out.
Guys, the Bengals weren't going to take this guy. The Minnesota Vikings actually have 24 guys that they have turned over that they're not going to draft this weekend. But teams like the Browns and many teams certainly were looking at Eric Wright in the second round.
Well, so Eric Wright, that debate, we'll see. Hopefully he comports himself well, and we're just judging him as a football player. Before that, St. Louis took running back Brian Leonard. I would say running back in that true sense. Is he halfback? Is he fullback? We know he can leap tall buildings literally with a single bound. He was 4-year starter for Shiano. He was kind of we're going to turn Rutgers from an afterthought into a big-time program, and he was there from start to finish.
Boom, I thought he would go one pick earlier to the New York Giants. I talked about him before the pick of Steve Smith was made. I thought it'd be ideal for the Giants with Tiki Barber moving on, retiring. I thought Brian Leonard could be more than a fullback. He could be a running back. You see his athleticism from the Leonard leap, tremendous vertical jump. A guy that caught a lot of passes, caught a pass in 47 straight games at Rutgers. A guy that really did a lot of good things for this program. He pretty much made Rutgers what they are, along with Greg Schiano coming into that program as the head coach, recruiting a lot of those kids out of the Florida prep ranks and more. Without Brian Leonard staying at Rutgers and having the career he did, he basically helped put Rutgers on the national map.
A great team player, and Schiano did tell pro teams, one of the best football players I've ever coached. But I'm looking at the Rams, I'm saying, you got Steven Jackson, you have offensive line needs. Here's Ryan Khalil of Southern Cal, who was available. He would have started for you. It would have been perfect for the Rams. So I just question, I love the fact that Leonard is in the second round. I thought he had a chance to be in the top half of the second round, but I really question why it is the Rams.
Some think
Steven Jackson.
Frank Wycheck was a running back at Maryland, became an H-back, moved tight end with the Tennessee Titans in the NFL. I think a lot of people think with his hands and his athleticism and his speed, keep in mind, 6'1", and they have 235 pounds, around a 4.52 at the combine. He can run. He's got good hands. He's a great competitive football player who loves the game. You can do more than just utilize him as a conventional fullback, running back, or H-back, move tight end. Opens up a lot of opportunities.
All right, while we talk, we've had 3 quarterbacks go in the second round, but Trent Edwards not yet. But it's still plenty of picks left in the second round. Some good teams could be a good spot for this young man to go. So the playoff team's coming up. Chiefs next, followed by Seahawks.
The Contender Challenge, UK versus USA, continues Tuesdays on ESPN.
So now this DirecTV Superfan thing is going to show all these NFL games in beautiful high definition. Well, let's all run out and get bikini waxes so that we look nice for our close-ups.
Sign up for NFL Sunday Ticket today and get Superfan for free.
Now get all your favorites in one box. Introducing the new Variety Big Box from KFC. Popcorn chicken, a crispy strip, a drumstick, mashed potatoes, coleslaw, a biscuit, and a large drink. Fill up on all your favorites at KFC.
Changing, yeah, everything's changing. But I'm through with all this change.
So he sent me the most beautiful bouquet ever.
What'd the card say?
Only something beautiful for my something beautiful.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I know. Everyone here has been joking. He must have done something really bad. You don't think... you don't think he could have... Oh...
Singular is now the new AT&T. Your world delivered. And get Mom a red pearl for Mother's Day.
Traffic ahead.
Incredible. You found a golf course near the conference. Awesome Chinese. Now you find me a way around traffic. I love you.
Every now and then I get a little bit lonely and you're never coming around.
Take Market Street exit.
You're right. We'll just keep it professional, you know?
Go everywhere, find everything. Fall hard for the new Wear 2 GPS at Avis.
Sunday, 2 National League Central rivals clash. Let's go! Hot-hitting Derek Lee looks to keep the Cubs on pace with Albert Pujols and the world champion Cards. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, 8 Eastern.
Dave Revson with the SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. Top NFL draft news. Jamarcus Russell, #1 overall pick in the draft. The LSU quarterback goes to the Raiders. Notre Dame QB Brady Quinn slipped all the way to 22. The Browns trading up to get him. ESPN's Ed Werder reports Cowboys owner Jerry Jones says he is committed to paying Terrell Owens his $3 million roster bonus due in June, meaning T.O. will remain in Dallas. NBA today, the Pistons finish off a sweep in the Magic behind 25 from Chauncey Billups. And LeBron James, 30.6 rebounds, 9 assists as the Cavs go up 3-zip on Washington. Details SportsCenter 11 Eastern, ESPN 2. Chris?
All right, Dave, thank you very much. And now we are... All right, we're trying to listen behind us here, but let's go to your next players that are available. Ryan Khalil is a interesting player.
Good football player, center guard. He will be a heck of a center in this league. He could arguably end up being a Pro Bowl center and one of the elite pivot men in this league. You look at Tim Crowder. If he would have just been more consistent, he flashed first-round ability, didn't sustain it throughout the season and even through an entire game. Samson Satelli, he figured to be a late 2, and we're still not yet all the way towards the end of the second round. Trent Edwards, we thought would go in round 2. Nothing wrong with round 3 if you drop to that point, considering he had the injury issues at Stanford. Charles Johnson, another kid. These juniors are getting hurt. Coming out early has not benefited these kids. Charles Johnson outproduced Quentin Moses, had a big year for Georgia, comes out early. Had he gone back, you'd have been looking at a high first-round pick, at worst a mid-first-round pick. So a Sidney Rice, a Charles Johnson, a Dwayne Jarrett, these underclassmen better reevaluate when they decide to come out early.
Cost themselves money again.
You do cost yourself money when you don't go in the first round, but if you go in the second round, you still get an opportunity to perform, and as long as you perform, you're going to get paid. You'll get to that money. Right? And let's remember, the first contract is not always where you make the money. You make the money when you become an unrestricted free agent or something along those lines and get the big second payday in the second segue of getting your contract.
I don't have as much of a problem with Jarrett, even Sidney Rice, because speed was an issue. But a Charles Johnson from Georgia with his pass rush ability, next year, if you look at that draft and look at the top 10 to 15 guys already, he'd have been heavily in that mix with another great year at Georgia.
I'm still mystified by Ryan Khalil, the USC center, not being drafted yet. The only thing I did hear on him is that you mentioned he could play guard. Some teams didn't think that he had to play. He was a pure center. But what a center if you need it. And you ask Peyton Manning, you get a great center like Jeff Saturday, like he has in Indianapolis.
Right.
Your center's like your second quarterback on that offense.
You're right. Ask the Bills how valuable Kent Hull was during those 4 teams that won the Super Bowl. Now, speaking of Super Bowl, a year ago, the NFC representative in the Super Bowl was the Seattle Seahawks. They have not had a first. They are the only team yet to draft today because, remember, they got Deion Branch from the Patriots, so they had given up their first-round pick. Very busy in the offseason, signing defensive end Patrick Kearney from Atlanta, Deion Grant, former Jacksonville, and Brian Russell. So a couple of new safeties. They did not re-sign Jeremy Stevens. Trouble and drops, etc. Hamlin, the safety, gone to Dallas. Grant Wistrom, the veteran, the big free agent that they had signed a couple of years ago from St. Louis, they let him go as well. And Seattle looking for help at corner, one of the places that they want. Now they've got corners to play with Trufant and Herndon, but they've just selected the Maryland quarterback Josh Wilson, and This is a team. It's an interesting team that was quite integral to make the Seahawks at the moment. How about Wilson, Mel?
4.39 speed. Now, he's only 5'9 and a quarter, about 188 pounds. I think he's your nickel back at the pro level, has kick return ability as well. So he's going to help you on special teams, make some plays in that secondary, because he's very opportunistic and did a good job in that Maryland Terrapin secondary, where Dominique Foxworth came out a few years ago. He's done a pretty good job in Denver. And you see here the kick return ability of Josh Wilson, that 4.39 speed, pretty good athlete overall. I think for a team that's looking for a complementary defensive back, that extra defensive back, nickel or dime back, special teams guy in the kick return game, Josh Wilson figured to go after he ran that 4.39. He's always shown great recovery ability. Figured to be a second or at worst an early third-round pick.
You know, Mel, you can't have enough good corners in the National Football League, especially if you're a team like Seattle. They like to use those zone blitz schemes. John Marshall likes to get after the quarterback, the defensive coordinator. So clearly, you need a guy that can play that slot. And clearly, when you look at Josh Wilson, he's a guy that can play inside on the slot.
You know what? Before we're gonna we'll talk about the Seahawks in a moment, because remember, one little thing let's put in: Hasselbeck played hurt last year. Sean Alexander was hurt half the year. Look, in the NFC, there's room to move. They almost beat the Bears in Chicago. Could they get back into a championship game or into a Super Bowl? Yes, it is possible. Kansas City picking before, and this is somebody that they had targeted in the second round. They thought he'd be there. Defensive tackle Turk McBride from Tennessee goes to the Chiefs. Big guy inside, Mel.
I'll tell you, he was a very valuable member of that defensive line, played end and tackle. Justin Harrell gets hurt. He has to move inside. You look at him at defensive end, made some plays. Not a dominator, but at 6'3", 277 pounds. Good athlete, did 27 reps in the combine, so he has the upper body strength to give you some dual versatility on your defensive front.
And as Herm Edwards has repeatedly said, we got to get younger. We got to get younger.
Oldest team in football.
Defensive line, they missed on Ryan Sims. Your old coach, Dick Vermeil, just missed on that one there, Jaws.
Why you got to take a shot? Take a shot. But you're right.
So the Chiefs and Seahawks have picked. We get Denver, Philly, New Orleans coming up. And we shall return.
Things you love about basketball. Quickness. Quickness. Athleticism. Athleticism. Desire. Desire. You're a fan. You just don't know it yet. Watch MLS Primetime Thursday nights on ESPN2. Presented by Adidas.
Come, who am I? SpongeBob, no pants.
Wow. SpongeBob fever is spreading. Grab some tasty chicken fries and toys, only at BK.
It started with a simple idea. Build an automobile that takes the sheer joy of driving to a whole new level. Use advanced technologies without sacrificing fuel economy. Take advantage of a racing-inspired heritage. Provide an interior space that fulfills every need. A TSX from Acura.
Now you can lease a TSX for $299 a month for well-qualified customers.
Hey, neighbor. Getting the 3-burner grill, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with the 4-burner with
infrared technology.
Oh, is that the 4-seater? Yeah. Mine seats 6. Oh, and he's got the beverage center.
I go with the choice deck or the Trex.
My deck's gonna be 10 by 15. Maybe 2 decks.
At Lowe's, you'll find everything you need to make your backyard the best one on the block.
Check out the gazebo. You got a gazebo.
Lowe's. Let's build something together.
Use your Lowe's consumer card and pay nothing for 12 months on any purchase of $299 or more.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seem to help. I know downtown, downtown. Things will be great when you're downtown. Everything's waiting for you.
No matter what you want to do in life, life takes Visa.
Come, who am I? SpongeBob, no pants.
Wow. SpongeBob fever is spreading. Grab some tasty chicken fries and toys, only at BK.
San Diego Chargers had the best record in the AFC last season, but did not win a playoff game, and now they try and get set and do a little better in 2007. Welcome back to the NFL Draft on ESPN2. The New Orleans Saints are on the clock. We'll let you know what they do with the 58th overall pick in the second round in just a little bit. But we're joined now, thanks to Coors Light video conferencing, by the new head coach of the San Diego Chargers. That would be Norv Turner. Norv, you go after a wide receiver, Craig Davis, out of LSU in the first round. What made him the right fit for you?
Well, the thing about Craig, he's been a productive player throughout his entire career, and we really thought it was a great fit for us. You know, we think early or right away he can help us in the slot, he can help us on third down, and we also see him as a guy that's a complete player. It can be a starting receiver in the league, it can be a high-level starting receiver in the league, and obviously can help us as a punt returner right away.
You go defensive in the second round. I think you traded 4 picks for the safety Eric Weddle out of Utah. Mark May was sitting next to me, and he said, how can they trade that many picks for Eric Weddle? What do you say?
Well, Eric obviously was a guy we wanted to have here, and Eric's an outstanding football player. And again, the great thing about Eric, he can have an impact with our team right away. He's played in the slot. He can play safety. He can play on third down. You know, and he's going to be an outstanding special teams player for us.
Norv, you signed Michael Turner to the restricted one-year offer, $2.35 million, right before the draft. LaDainian Tomlinson's backup. Is he going to stay with the Chargers, or does that just facilitate you guys to make a trade and move him?
Well, there's obviously been a lot of conversation about Michael, and you know, I always approach it from the standpoint, he's on our football team, and he's going to be here until something different happens. I think people that know my background and in terms of wanting to run the football, I'd love to have Michael here, have LaDainian, have Michael do the things he did last year. He's an explosive player. He made a lot of big plays, and you know, I think he'll help our entire football team.
Well, it certainly worked out having both of them there last season. The Chargers 14-2 a year ago, Norv, but could not get that playoff win. How does this team take the next step in 07? What do you as the head coach need to do?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us, you know, we're playing with a lot of young football players. We got a lot of guys that are going to improve, that I think are just starting to feel how good they can be as players. So we can improve as a football team. I think the fact that they didn't win a playoff game last year, it's that bad taste in their mouth, and there's a real sense of urgency. We're off to a great start in our off-season program, and like I say, it's a great group of young players, and I believe they feel they have something to prove.
Norv, we appreciate the time. I'm sure we'll talk to you later on down the road.
Okay, good talking to you guys.
Norv Turner, head coach of the San Diego Chargers, the team.
He knows how to coach a little offense.
Yeah,
you think? Quarterbacks
love him. 90s, Troy Aikman,
you ever heard of him?
Fame induction, was talking about Norv Turner and made him the Hall of Fame quarterback that he was.
He made the biggest impact on anybody's career in 3 years. Yep.
Let us go from the top of the AFC West to the bottom of the AFC West if you go back by 06 schedules, and that would be the Raiders. Listen, as Ron Jaworski likes to say, you want to get points in the passing game, and they certainly seem, Michael Smith, to have made strides in that direction, getting Jamarcus Russell with the first overall pick. They get the tight end out of Arizona State, Zach Miller, in the second round. They make the trade for Mike Williams. Not exactly a great fit in Detroit. Do you like what the Raiders have done here?
I like what they've done, and I like what they've done for the last couple of years, quite honestly. Now, this isn't a stretch by any means, considering they're the worst team in the league last year, but I think they'll be better, and a lot better next year, a lot more competitive. Al Davis and that organization, they're the butt of many jokes. We talked about the fact that last year they passed on Leinart and Cutler. Well, if they hit on Jamarcus Russell, they got their franchise quarterback. People compare him arm strength-wise to John Elway. Look at what they've done on defense the last couple of years. Michael Huff, Kirk Morrison, Thomas Howard. They put together a nice young defense. They should be better coached on offense. I like what this team has done in Randy Moss. They can get value for him. The Packers offering a conditional 4th, Patriots a conditional 3rd. Supposedly there's a 3rd team giving them even more. So they might get value for Randy Moss. This could be a really competitive team in the AFC West next year.
Now let me be the devil on the other shoulder.
I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy.
No, would-haves, should-haves, and could-haves. First of all, it just pains me to talk about an SC guy like this, but until Mike Williams, with that trade, he's been a stiff in this league. So until he proves that he can play and weigh 225 instead of 245 or 50, that to me is a wash. I don't care if Lane Kiffin's the coach, his former coach at SC, or not. I love Jamarcus Russell. This is big time. But until they learn to block somebody up front on offense, they got some major problems, and this young fella's going to take a beating. That being said, are the Raiders defensively? Hey, first of all, they couldn't throw up last year offensively. They make some people throw up, but Jamarcus Russell's going to start right away. Defensively, they're a playoff team.
They were a playoff team.
Halfway there. Let me tell you, you know what? Halfway there, but when you shut teams out 6-0, you sure as heck better start to score. Russell's going to take a little bit of a beating. I think he's going to be a great player, but they got a lot to do, and they're nowhere near it yet. They got a great defense on that side of the ball, though.
Well, you're saying the Raiders are going to be better. They can't get much worse.
Exactly.
First pick in the
So I'm right already.
So you're looking at this situation with Jamarcus Russell. You're right, Sean. It's the offensive line. Quarterbacks were sacked 72 times last year. You can't throw the football from the horizontal position and have success in the NFL. You have to help them. They haven't picked an offensive lineman yet. They made a trade for a quarterback, a wide receiver. They drafted a tight end and drafted a quarterback. They better get some help on the offensive line. I don't care if they bring back Joe Maynard to play.
They got to get coaching.
Maybe that's why they took Jamarcus Russell, because they were so enamored with him being on one knee and throwing it 60 yards, because you figure that's the way Raider quarterbacks are going to be. They're heading toward the ground.
It was hard to bring down in college.
I'll tell you the issue, though, listen, if you're bringing in a young quarterback, do you really want him throwing to Mike Williams and Randy Moss, some guys that have been
I don't believe that Randy Moss is going to be the guy getting throws. I believe Moss is going to be out, or at least I'd think so.
But should Moss stay there? Keep up something in mind. Defense coordinator still double-team him. That's a great way to help a young quarterback.
I'd take a 5th-round draft pick for Moss at this point.
It all hinges on Jamarcus Russell. Michael Smith likes what they've done. We'll see what happens with the Raiders. Stay with us.
I'm Jamarcus Russell.
Use your elbows, use your elbows, use your arms, use your arms. Sprint out, sprint out.
You're watching the NFL Draft on ESPN.
You hear a high school kid takes a job at McDonald's. They work hard, take advantage of opportunities. And years later, that kid who was working at one McDonald's now leads thousands. You believe those stories? I did.
A new game will have America screaming one thing. America's biggest bingo game begins Friday, May 18th.
Pull that trigger.
And everyone can play along.
You're a winner.
But no one wants to hear those 2 words.
No bingo.
Fridays are National Bingo Night. Premieres May 18th, only on ABC.
I heard college was expensive, but whoa, first tuition, then books, lab fees, room and board, a laptop. So I'm stressing, how am I gonna pay for this now? Then I found a Strive. Loans made just for students. My parents co-signed the loan, so I got the money I needed, and I don't have to pay a cent until after I graduate. And I had my money in about a week. Nice.
With an Strive student loan, you can get up to $30,000 for college this year and not pay a cent until after you graduate. Get the money you need now and don't pay a cent until after you graduate.
Why stress? Get the money you need for college now and pay it back after you graduate with an Strive student loan.
You can get up to $30,000 for college now, and you don't have to pay a cent until 6 months after you graduate. Call 1-800-686-8037 or visit us online right now.
Welcome back to the 2007 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
And 5th round pick. All right, welcome back to New York, everybody. Philadelphia just made their second round pick. Victor Ampey from Notre Dame, defensive end, and the other was kind of at one point Mel thought maybe go a little higher.
Well, I'll tell you, he was probably a 2 in Chris. I think he had a Gilman High School in Maryland and was scheduled to go to Maryland. Then he ends up at Notre Dame, does a real good job, and became over the last year and a half a real good pass rusher. That's number 95. Good pass rush technique. The pad level low, uses his hands and arms very well, so technically gets it done. I think the concern was some of those sacks came against some offensive tackles that he could get the best of from a talent standpoint. I think in the NFL, he's going to have to show that he can do it against the guys who know every trick in the book about how to keep you at bay. But it gives you everything he has, and he's going to see a lot of determination, a lot of effort out of this kid. And over, like I say, over the last year and a half, his pass rush skills improved dramatically. And he became really a real force at Notre Dame and probably their best overall defensive player.
So that's what Philadelphia has done thus far. And speaking of the Eagles, we welcome in on our Coors Light video conferencing the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. That would be Andy Reid. And Andy, first thing I got to ask, I didn't even think the Eagles and the Cowboys talked. You guys made a trade with them in the first round? What happened there?
Well, I like when they give me good quarterbacks.
Well, and you just ruined everybody's fantasy draft that went into the second round. So, Kevin Kolb, tell us what you saw, what you see in him, and because it to many seemed like a curveball.
No, absolutely. You know, the last time they booed a quarterback in Philadelphia, he turned out to be pretty good. So I'm feeling good right now. Kevin's really, you know, he's a heck of a player, and we go through our evaluation. This was really the first year, Boomer, that we could sit there and say, we've got a pretty good football team coming back to us, and we could pick the best player on the board that we considered the best player, and that was Kevin at the time. We've got one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Now we got to add another one that's a fine football player.
Well, now you have, I mean, we'll get to Donovan in a minute. You have Feely there. You got Holcomb from Buffalo. You got, and Kolb. I mean, I guess that's quite a competition there behind McNabb.
Well, you know, John Gruden has me by 1, I think, but we've got a good stockpile.
Tell us about Kolb that some saw, he's just a system guy. What do you see that would make you think that he can be a successful NFL quarterback?
Well, you know, we had an opportunity to bring him up and visit with him. We had an opportunity to go down and visit with him and work him out, and we just thought he would fit into the West Coast system very well. He's a coach's kid, and he's been coached hard, and has a great mind, head on his shoulders, and good solid person, and decided he'd fit in here well.
Let's go to Donovan McNabb now. What's his prognosis off the knee surgery, you know, in the middle of the season?
He's doing great. He's ahead of schedule. Donovan, this has nothing to do with Donovan McNabb. I can make that clear for everybody right here. This is all about taking the best player that I thought was on the board at the time. Donovan McNabb is doing great. He's still one of the greatest quarterbacks in the National Football League. I'm very partial. I think he's the best. But that, you know, again, he's doing great in his rehab.
What, by the end of this draft, by the end of tomorrow night, what do you hope to come out here with? You said you can line up and go out and play now, obviously, but what else would you like to accomplish here these 2 days?
Well, I'd like to take Keyshawn with me, bring him here, and, you know, he could score some touchdowns.
That's tampering.
Yeah, no, I know. Oh, that's right, it is. I just said that in front of the whole... The commissioner's sitting right there. I just said that. But he's a celebrity. He's a celebrity. I can get away with it. We're just looking, again, Boomer, we're looking at the best guys on the board. We felt that way with Victor. We just thought he was a tremendous athlete. He's got great size and speed, and he's come from a great system that Charlie's running there at Notre Dame.
Andy, good to see you back on the job. We appreciate you joining us, and best everybody at home, okay?
Thanks, Boomer. Appreciate it.
All right, Andy Reid. It's just good to see him coaching the Philadelphia Eagles. And,
good man.
They had a good team, and they can go places. And made it pretty clear that the Kolb, let's not read everything in that, okay, Donovan, he's not going to be healthy. He's not ready to go, and he made you happy. And actually, we should have told Andy the commissioner's not here. He got in the same car with Steve Young, and they went off someplace, right?
Well, yeah, but boom, I'm a little bit concerned about it. Andy said all the right things.
Yes.
But I could personalize this. I remember 1984 when the Eagles drafted Randall Cunningham. It was like my 8th year in the league.
Okay.
When a quarterback is taken in the second round, you get very, very nervous that your job is on the line. There's no question about it. This is going to make Donovan think what is going on.
Because Cunningham was taken in the second round.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
And you know, you begin to feel your mortality as a quarterback when they start drafting guys. We know how this game is played. Andy and the Eagles are going to say all the right things but you got to think a little bit about this one.
Well, they got a lot of guys that are quarterbacks. Let's go up to Michael Smith, get his take on the Eagles. Michael.
Well, Boom, I had an email exchange with Donovan McNabb after the Kevin Kolb pick, and initially he did express just what Jaws is talking about, befuddlement at the Eagles taking a quarterback that high. He expected them to take a quarterback, just not in the second round. So Andy Reid actually called Donovan McNabb after the pick, I guess to kind of tell him what was going on. So continuing emailing Donovan, he said that, you know, it had nothing to do with him from what he could tell. So the same way he handles most controversies, seems to be letting it roll off. But initially, he was very stunned by the pick. But seems like he thinks, just like Andy was saying, it's got nothing to do with him.
Well, anybody who's competitive, Jaws, you know it. Keyshawn, you certainly know it. Why are they tampering with where I play, right? But competition maybe brings out the best, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Remember, there was concern after last season about Jeff Garcia. Remember, people were worried about harmony in the locker room, that Garcia had won a lot of guys over. Garcia's now gone. Do you now stir that pot again? There's a lot of questions now about the quarterback situation. And I agree with Andy. I've seen Donovan. He looks very, very healthy and moving very well.
You're closer to the Philadelphia situation than I am, but I don't think Donovan McNabb has to worry about his job. He's just a couple years removed from the Super Bowl.
No, but what he has to worry about is staying healthy. This is a guy who has not stayed healthy over the last 5 years. And if 2 years down the line these injuries continue, they're going to need a quarterback to be ready. And I think that's what we're looking at here, the selection of Kevin Kolb.
Donovan, I think, at least at this moment, is lighter than he has been the last year or two. He's a month ahead of schedule, you heard Andy say, and so that certainly is good signs. And the Eagles got everybody's attention. Wouldn't you want that, Jaws?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be back here to New York in a moment.
Russell Athletic, ESPN Arena Football, Mondays, all season long on ESPN2.
Coach, would you agree it's a little hot in here for a mock turtleneck?
I wouldn't disagree with it. I wouldn't disagree with it.
Coach, my buddies tell me when it's this hot, nothing's more refreshing than a cold Coors Light.
You know something? They're right sometimes. More often than not, they're right.
Coach, doesn't this guy's hat look awesome backwards?
A lot of guys might not have reversed that.
Frost Brewed Coors Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
Did your place kicker make this onion dip?
It didn't look like he made it from where we were standing.
Love this 7-layer dip.
You guys brought dip?
No, 7-layer crunch wrap. 7-layer dip, but easy to eat anywhere.
It's good to go.
Good to go.
Good to go, Greg. Yeah! Who's next?
Taco Bell's new 7-layer crunch wrap. Hearty beans and warm nacho cheese sauce layered with cool sour cream and guacamole. Wrapped up and good to go. To get the great taste of 7-layer dip, think outside the bun.
Now through April 30th, all it takes is your signature. During the Mercury Signature event, there's no cash due at signing on any 07 Mercury. Like the Mercury Milan, a Consumer's Digest Best Buy. That 0 first month's payment, 0 down, and 0 cash due at signing on Mercury Milan for $256 a month. Ends April 30th at your Lincoln Mercury dealer.
What's up? Nothing. Check this out. Is that what you call a chair in Minnesota? It's game time. Bring it! Oh, yeah.
Go to NFLShop.com to get your new NFL Draft Day hat.
I want that!
NFLShop.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to New York. Let's clean up a couple of picks here in the lower part of round number 2. Denver Broncos, defensive end, Tim Crowder from Texas. So Denver defense here in round 2, Mel.
Well, defense, the first round with Jarvis Moss, a pass rusher, which is what they need. They couldn't get any heat on the quarterback the last couple of years. Come back with Tim Crowder here at pick number 56. Could have gone late first round or early second round, and nobody would have had an argument. Not consistent enough. He flashed that dominant ability, that pass rush ability off the edge. Didn't maintain a consistency throughout a game and through the year. Did have a great workout, though. 6'3.5", 273 pounds. 30.5 vertical, did 32 reps and ran a 4.69. Those are first-round computer numbers. Had he been more consistent, you would have looked at a guy would have gone right about where Jarvis Moss did. So you get Jarvis Moss in the first, you get Tim Crowder in the second. Obviously, the Denver prioritized pass rush early in this draft.
And Crowder started each of the last 47 games of his college career. So experience, he's got that. So they're the defensive guys. Now, a couple of rainbows now going here in the second round. Son of former Packers quarterback Joe Francis, Ikaika Alma Francis, defensive end, Hawaii, picked by Detroit, who made a trade up to New Orleans spot.
Kid really came on. You talk about inexperience as a football player, and Morton will get into that. But Jerry Glanville, the defensive coordinator with Hawaii, developed this kid's talents, coached up. He's now the head coach. Jerry is at Portland State. So he really benefited from Jerry Glanville's expertise in coaching to allow him more to develop into a football player with no prior experience until he got to Hawaii.
And no question about it, Rod Marinelli is going to love this guy and believes he has so much upside that with coaching, he played, basketball and volleyball in high school. He goes to Hawaii. They wanted to give him a football scholarship, but his dad told June Jones, the head coach there, no, make him earn it. His dad was Jumpin' Joe Alima Francis, who was a backup to Bart Starr under Vince Lombardi back in the 60s and what have you. But this is a guy that some teams in this league felt has high upside, and with a guy like Rod Marinelli coaching him, I say remember the name.
All right, and then we got a sneak preview at what happened after that. So, Keyshawn, you guys took another USC player. Ryan Khalil, Carolina Panthers. My goodness.
Hey, we're going to build this thing just like an SC Dynasty. I'm looking at scholarship money.
That's right.
But I think, what we need here, our offensive line was banged up a little bit. We went out and got the big guy last year from Tennessee, but I think there's some concerns there on the offensive line, and he can fit right in right now and do a good job.
Well, he went up against Sean Cody, Mike Patterson every day in practice, and that obviously helps him and allowed him to be developed into a great player. Olin Kreutz, where'd he go? The University of Washington in the Pac-10, second-round pick to the Bears, now a heck of a center. This kid can play guard or center at a very high level. 34 reps, so even though he's 6'2.5", only about 295, 298. Strong, technically sound, smart football player. This kid will be, I believe, one of the elite centers in the National Football League.
Coached by Golden Pat Rule, who's had experience in the NFL at Southern Cal. This guy's ready to come in and start right now. He is ready to come in and start, and I think he can be an impact center.
And that very well may happen. He may just do that. And so we're trying to get the running game going. We draft this guy. We now got another wide receiver we can put into the third position. So I think we're starting to looking pretty good on offense.
Well, a couple of notes on Ryan Khalil. His dad, Frank Khalil, was Jim Kelly center with the USFL's Houston Gamblers.
And you know what the funny thing is? We're going to drive that locker room crazy.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Here you go.
Smiling.
But I tell you what,
this segment.
well, when they had the rookie sing, he sang Sinatra songs in the locker room. And now we go Ryan Khalil. Now we go to another player that played for June Jones in Hawaii, Samson Satellis. Here go the two centers off the board. Competed shot put and discus in high school. And Mel, he goes to Miami. Pick number 6. He had a big Senior Bowl, didn't he?
He is a battler. He's a scrapper, 6'2.5", 302 pounds, 42 knockdown blocks as a junior. You talk about a guy who is a tough, aggressive football player. Doesn't have the longest arms, but hey, that's not a huge factor at the center spot. There's Olin Kreutz, the center at the Chicago Bears. He doesn't have long arms as well. Kid that I thought could play center or guard. As you said, good week at the Senior Bowl practices. This is a solid second-round pick. Another good football player. And the only reason you're getting good value here is because these are center guard types, and obviously very few teams looking at help at that spot for prioritizing it early in this draft.
And they need help. The Dolphins need help. There's Hudson Houck, their line coach down there, needs some people to work with. Good pickup by the Dolphins.
All right, now here's the next pick, which was Baltimore's spot. But Detroit, my God, they're going up and down. This is, they're like they're putting buttons on the elevator here. So Detroit went up to get Gerald Alexander from Boise State, a team that won one of the most impressive games you will ever see in any sport at any time. They beat Oklahoma. So now Gerald Alexander, the safety from Boise State, and Detroit's been busy.
Very solid. Very solid draft right now.
A lot of people like Drew. You know, a lot of people like Drew. He got a little bit injured, you know, before the combine, but a lot of people like
3 years at corner, one at safety, and a strong combine. The combine really elevated him. I thought he was about a 5th-round draft pick. They reached a lot, taking him in the 2nd, but the kid has some versatility.
This is Alexander?
Gerald Alexander.
How does he fit? Joe Barry, the son-in-law of Rod Marinelli, the head coach there, is now the defensive coordinator for the Lions. They're going to be running the true Tampa defense that we've seen down there with the Buccaneers under Monty Kiffin and under Tony Dungy previously. How does he fit in with
Very athletic kid. 41-inch vertical jump, can run, runs a 4.5, has good size. He's not a physical, aggressive, and intimidator type as a safety, but he has those cornerback skills that he brought to the safety spot. So coverage will be his forte. He's not going to be an intimidator in that defensive secondary.
You know what I like? You're all excited about USC guys, but we got 2 from Hawaii and 1 from Boise State, kind of honorary alma maters. Who knows? Maybe my real alma mater will come up soon. Go.
You know, when we have Ditka on the show, we always do Mike and Mike and Mike.
Yeah.
I was thinking if we get Mike Singletary, too, we could call it Mike and Mike and Mike and Mike.
Oh, you're a genius. I got a better idea. How about if we cut every Mike that exists in the world of sports and we call it Mike and 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 Mike.
All right. Pass me the highlighter.
What makes them different makes them great. Mike and Mike in the morning.
It's a driver's car. Rich in the latest technology, the perfectly proportioned cabin offers abundant comfort and space. Super handling all-wheel drive gives you ownership of the road. And the ever-smooth turbocharged iVTEC engine, it's a rush. The RDX from Acura. Are you ready?
Take advantage of attractive financing on select Acura models for well-qualified customers.
Oh, give it back! What's going on here?
Josh stole my Kit Kat Blizzard, and he won't give it back!
Josh.
Dad! That's awesome! Dad! Sure you don't want it?
Hey! Hang on to yours. The new Kit Kat Blizzard at Dairy Queen. Real chunks of Kit Kat chocolate bars and our famous DQ soft serve. Do one.
Hey, Jimmy, need a little help? Sure. You know what else would be good?
Cobalt tools are so comfortable.
Let me use that screwdriver. No.
You just don't want to quit working.
Yeah. What do you think? Great tools.
Cobalt, the next generation of tough tools.
Well, anything else we can do? There's always my wife's car.
Available exclusively at Lowe's.
Well, it has been an interesting day for Trent Edwards, the quarterback out of Stanford. A lot of people thought he might be the first quarterback taken in the 2nd round after Jamarcus Russell and Brady Quinn, but Tom Petty may have nailed it. Still waiting by himself with his mom. Then his dad's got a little Bob Knight, I think his dad has it in him right there. And Trent Edwards is still waiting, and we are glad to be joined on the draft coverage here on ESPN2 by Trent Edwards. And Trent, how would you describe this day so far?
Yeah, Trent. Just really anxious, just ready to go somewhere, and excited for the opportunity that's ahead.
What has been going through your mind when you've seen these other quarterbacks, Beck, Cobb, Drew Stanton, taken ahead of you?
I mean, it's motivational, but those guys are all great quarterbacks. I worked with them at the combine, and they exhibit all the talents and can make all the throws just like I can. So there's still some options here coming up here pretty soon, and I'm just excited for the opportunity.
What teams have you been in contact with recently?
The ones I've visited most recently were New Orleans and Baltimore, so I know they have a couple picks coming up here pretty soon, and just, again, anxious and excited for what's going to come.
When they get you on the phone, what kind of things are they telling you?
I haven't talked with them yet today. I haven't heard from anyone yet so far, but just kind of it's a sitting and waiting game for who's gonna call the cell phone here pretty soon.
Well, the good news for you is you're ahead of Thurman Thomas, who in the 80s fell asleep. So the good news is you haven't done that yet. How have you managed to just sort of pass the time while you're waiting for your name to be called?
Just hanging out with family and friends. Just I'm not gonna fall asleep on you guys, I promise. But I'm just here waiting for the call, and it's hopefully gonna happen here pretty soon.
Well, you know, the thing is, this is not an exact science. And I'm going to read off a list of a couple of people that weren't drafted. Tony Romo, not drafted. Warren Moon, not drafted. He's in the Hall of Fame. Sean wants me to mention Sean Salisbury, not drafted, but I want better things for you than that. You know, and it'd go back to the draft of 2000. Tom Brady and Mark Bulger both were drafted in the 6th round in the same draft in 2000. So just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it can't turn out great.
Oh, you're absolutely right about that. This is just, to be honest, for me, it's just the starting line. So it's, like you said, there's a lot of other guys that have gone later than the position they're at right now. And it's, again, there's no reason why we can't still be successful here.
Yeah, I should also point out Kurt Warner, not drafted. He did okay as well. How will you use this day? You know, we heard Brady Quinn talk about it when he went from 1 to 22. I'm sure you're not thinking that's really a big deal at this point. But how will you use this day to motivate you when you get the call and when you go to a team?
Yeah, no, I've figured that I would have gone a little bit sooner, but it's, again, you can use that as motivation to use with you at the next level. And so it's, again, it's a difficult situation to be in, but I'm excited again, like I said, to move on and get picked here and come back around and see what happens.
Trent, I promise you, if you won't fall asleep on us, we're not going to sleep on you. We'll be with you through this entire process. Hey, thanks for being with us. We hope you get your name called real soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, Ron Jaworski, tell me about this quarterback, Trent Edwards, please. Points in the passing game.
Trey, you know points do come out of the passing game, and I believe with Trent Edwards, you can get points. As I studied him at Stanford, he certainly is a guy that projects well to the National Football League. I always use the term platforms because a lot of guys look real pretty in the pocket when they're well protected. Well, when you look at Trent Edwards, he's not a guy that got good protection. He had tight windows to throw into, and he was very effective. As I project him, he looks like a polished quarterback ready for the NFL.
Going through progressions, understanding checkdowns and outlets, 2 essential attributes for NFL quarterbacks. Watch Trent Edwards here. The play was initially designed to go to his left. Edwards did not get a clear picture. Nothing defined itself. He then looked down the seam to his tight end. Again, no window presented itself. His internal pocket clock went off. He knew he had to get rid of the football. Edwards knew exactly where his check down was. No sense of panic. He did not break down in the pocket. On 3rd and 7, Edwards calmly found his outlet for a 25-yard gain. From the end zone angle, you really see him go through his progression. In my film study, that play really stood out. It said a lot about Edwards' poise, especially given the constant pass rush pressure he was under his senior season at Stanford.
I just love doing those direct TV breakdowns. You can really zero in on the quarterback. And I think a quarterback to be successful consistently in the National Football League must be able to find completions. In other words, when all the other guys aren't open, he finds someone with a little bit of movement so they can uncover. The one thing I like about Trent Edwards, Boomer, he can find completions.
And again, poise, he's sitting there. This can't be enjoyable for him, but it's still 2nd round. Didn't matter. When you get an opportunity, he will be still, whenever he's picked, the highest quarterback drafted by that team. I mean, it's something for Trenton and all the guys to remember. You know, the 2nd round or the 3rd round, you're still, or 4th round even, the highest guy picked at that position by whatever team picks. So some for the young men that are out there that will not have a camera on waiting to get their pick. You know, team picks you in the 3rd or 4th round, they expect you to compete and have a great chance, and you're the highest guy at that post, right? It's advice to all these
health issues really has made him slide here, and you know how it goes. You know what coaches say. You know, he can't help the club in the tub, so a lot of that is going through their minds right now.
I have notes on here from guys that I trust in this league and say if he just gets a good transition in this league, that he can become a really elite quarterback. Listen, it was a well-designed offense at Stanford under Walt Harris, but the team was a disaster. One offensive coordinator told me he actually saw 2 linemen starting a fist fight during a pass play in which they blew a block while Trent Edwards was getting hit. So that's the type of mess that Trent Edwards
would you repeat that? What happened?
A offensive coordinator said he's got tape that shows 2 offensive linemen at Stanford starting to get into a fist fight when they blew their blocks as Trent Edwards was getting hit. That's the mess of a program that Edwards was playing in, even though it was a well-designed offense.
Got a way to try to protect your quarterback.
Yes.
That's quite a way to
with each other.
Well, we get to the bottom now of round number 2, and we just had a couple of picks here. Chicago, and this was San Diego's spot. We're going to review the trade in a minute. They took Daniel Bazine, defensive end from Central Michigan. So there were a lot of eyebrows raised when San Diego made this trade. The Chargers moved up with a pick Chicago had very high in the second round, the 5th overall in the second round. It took safety Eric Weddle from Utah. And you saw what, we're going to talk about that in a moment. You saw that it was a 2 or 3, including a 3 next year, a 5. Design defense. Central Michigan's had 2 players go today, Mel.
Joe Staley, the left tackle, in the late first round to San Francisco. And here's Dan Bazine, second round to the Chicago Bears. They like guys and get after the quarterback. They'll sacrifice a little size in that system. And a kid who had a ton of sacks, 16 sacks as a junior, 10.5 this past season. Doesn't have the longest arms, but he's cat quick. Very strong in the upper body, and he's a good athlete. And when you produce like he did, and you have that intensity level and that determination that Bazine has for the Chicago Bears in a rotation, I think he can be an effective guy. Projected to be a 3rd-round pick, goes in the late 2nd, not much of a reach there at all, and a guy that does give you can't even say overachiever because his talent level is there. Short arms are a concern, guys, but that's about it. This kid did a heck of a job in the Mid-American Conference. You could argue one of the best defensive players this conference has ever seen.
Wow.
So that's what the Bears have done thus far. Olsen, the tight end, toward the bottom of the 1st, second to last pick, and now Bazine. And so, let me do one thing here on San Diego because, and we heard Wittray, we saw Norv Turner earlier. The Chargers are trying to win this now, okay? And they really think that Eric Weddle is a player that they can help them. So they went up and they got him. They figured that they're 3 and the 5 that they gave up. They swapped 2s. 3 and the 5 they gave up. They already have another 3 and a 5 this year at the compensatory pick. And a 3 next year is not going to help them win now. That's the philosophy of the Chargers. And after finishing 14-2, and after having LaDainian Tomlinson have a year like that, but you're not necessarily going to have a running back 6 more years like that. They're trying to win now. That's where the Chargers are coming from. And with the way they have worked the draft, as Morton, you pointed out earlier, over both the A.J. Smith regime and before that, when his mentors, John Butler, I don't know that we can say, what are they doing? I mean, that's just where they're coming from. 14-2, we're going now. Whatever we all think of Weddle, whatever, but they think he's a guy that can help them in a couple plays.
That's exactly right. When they sit in that war room and they're making their decisions, they say, this guy can help us win right now. That's the guy. If it's unanimous, you got to make that move.
Well, and A.J. Smith and Buddy Nix, their personnel guy, they deserve the benefit of the doubt on any move they make right now in the draft because of their track record.
Absolutely. They didn't have a ton of needs. I mean, they isolated a couple areas, wide receiver, safety corner that they needed help, and they got them. They didn't need 6 or 7 players in this draft.
I thought they would try to find a replacement for Donnie Edwards.
Still going to happen.
Draft's not
okay. We got a couple picks left.
It's going to be over for me in a little bit, though.
Here in the 2nd round. And when we return to New York, we'll wrap things up. We'll talk to the coach of the NFC champion Chicago Bears, Lovie Smith.
Now get all your favorites in one box. Introducing the new Variety Big Box from KFC. Popcorn chicken, a crispy strip, a drumstick, mashed potatoes, coleslaw, a biscuit, and a large drink. Fill up on all your favorites at KFC.
Coach Ditka, did you really say you'd trade all your draft picks for a case of frost-brewed Coors Light?
I mean, I didn't say it in those general terms, but I said it like that.
Okay, well then what about the teams that didn't trade for Coors Light?
You know, they're behind everybody else right now, and they have to catch up.
Coach, are you sure you're not confusing the NFL draft with draft beer?
I'm going to keep them lose my train. Who?
Frost-brewed Coors Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
Coach, I thought he couldn't see. Is this cool?
He doesn't seem as comfortable there for some reason.
Now get all your favorites in one box. Introducing the new Variety Big Box from KFC. Popcorn chicken, a crispy strip, a drumstick, mashed potatoes, coleslaw, a biscuit, and a large drink. Fill up on all your favorites at KFC.
Tomorrow, the NBA playoffs continue with a Game 4 doubleheader on ABC. First, the Bulls, led by the emerging duo of Dang and Gordon, look to complete a stunning series sweep over Shaq, Wade, and the defending champion Heat. Then it's Game 4 in LA. The Suns seemed headed to a commanding series lead, but Kobe and the Lakers staged a gutty comeback and can now even it up. Coverage begins tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern with Bulls Heat, followed by Suns Lakers at 3:30 on ABC.
This is the ultimate indoor RC helicopter. Introducing Reflex from Air Hogs. The new radio-controlled copter with dual thrust propellers for precision control. Forward, backward, up, down, left, and right. Take reflex places no other copter has gone before. Amazing precision control, indoors and out. Small enough to land in the palm of your hand. Powerful enough to take to the skies. Amazing performance at the touch of your fingertips. You get the reflex with the dual thrust propellers, the 6-way controller, the AC charger, backup rotors, and the display case. Plus, we'll also include our brand new flight simulator, so you can use it on your PC for even more outrageous fun. And you can get all this for 2 payments of $34.95. It's Reflex from Air Hogs. Must be 18 years or older to call or log on.
To order, call 1-800-618-2296. That's 1-800-618-2296. Call now.
Welcome back to our coverage of the draft on ESPN2. 3 minutes and 32 seconds away from wrapping up the second round. Tampa Bay is on the clock as we continue our coverage. Trey Wingo here with you. Delighted to join in thanks to the Coors Light video conferencing. The head coach of the Chicago Bears, Lovie Smith. Lovie, you go offense in the first round and take the tight end, Greg Olsen, out of Miami. What did he do to this team, or what did you see on film that you like so much?
Well, he has a lot of talent. We were looking for a tight end that we feel could stretch the field down the middle. He has great speed, great competitor, coach's son, plays for the University of Miami. There are a lot of things we like about him.
He'll certainly help out Rex Grossman, too, give him a safety valve over the middle. A lot of the talk, Lovie, about the Bears going into the draft was whether or not you were going to deal Lance Briggs, who wants a new contract or wants to be traded. The Redskins were mentioned to be a party there. What can you tell us about the possibility of Lance Briggs being traded at this point?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that Lance Briggs is a Chicago Bear. We like him a lot. He's helped us win a lot of football games around here. Lance is our linebacker, and I'm looking forward to him having another all-pro season with us.
So in your mind, you're expecting him to be back and playing on the field for the Bears next season?
I see number 55 with the Chicago Bears.
Let's talk about Tank Johnson now in jail for violating probation. What do you expect to happen to him when he comes out of jail in light of the new player conduct policy that's in place and the suspensions we saw for Pac-Man Jones and Chris Henry?
We don't know. I don't know. I just... Of course, the commissioner, has a policy that's been put into place. Tank made a mistake. Right now, he's going through the system. When you make a mistake, we'll just wait for the commissioner to decide, and we'll go from there.
But in light of that, Lovie, do you have to make plans that he may not be there for you in 2007?
Well, I mean, you always make plans for guys possibly not being with you. I mean, guys get hurt from time to time, so you have to have a backup plan for all positions. We have that, but hopefully, Tank will be with us, at some time during the season.
Have you heard from the commissioner about Tank Johnson at any time?
No specifics right now. All those things will be decided once he gets out.
All right, Lovie, we appreciate the time, and we look forward to talking to you down the road. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Trey.
Lovie Smith, head coach of the defending NFC champions from Chicago.
So calm, cool, and collected. I love the way
we
always positive.
We have to say this about Lovie because we were talking in the break and he had that great speech. We're 10-2. Rex is our quarterback, and you heard him say number 55. Lance is our linebacker.
That's what it's called. Yep. Consistency.
He's consistent down the board. All right, time for the 3 and out with Hummer, and we take a look at the second round. And let's start with you, Michael Smith. The Chargers, 4 picks for the strong safety Eric Weddle out of Utah. Did they give up too much for this guy?
I don't believe they did. When you talk about a team that came into this draft looking to address 2 positions in particular, safety and wide receiver. They did both. And this is a team that's got, 10 Pro Bowlers or so that went to the Pro Bowl last year. So they're loaded with talent. Not a lot of holes on this team. And you look at this team, they had a couple of third-round picks. They gave up one of them. A couple of fifths. They gave up one of them. Gave up a third next year. As you heard the guys say, not going to help him win this year, but also Michael Turner, if he's not dealt, will probably fetch the Chargers a very high 3rd or 4th round compensatory selection. So they might even give that back. If this is the player they wanted, no, they didn't give up too much.
Michael, 4 picks for Eric Weddle. 4 picks. That says 4 other players. You better get 4 picks this year. 4 other players you could have.
Sean, that's a good point. He better get 4 interceptions for each one of those picks. Sean, let's go to you for the second choice here on Hummer 3 and out. The Eagles, surprisingly to some, take Kevin Cobb, the quarterback out of Houston, in the second round. Was that a mistake?
I don't know if it's a mistake, but it's shocking. And here's what it tells me. That as Jaws, you heard them talk about earlier on the set in New York, is when you draft a quarterback this high and it's actually your first pick because you traded out of the first round, something's not right or something's fishy. Either you don't think Donovan's coming back healthy because they got Kelly Holcomb and A.J. Feely on that team also. So I'm telling you right now that when you do this, you have big plans for the guy. Now, I believe Donovan McNabb's a star in this league, whether he comes back earlier or later with the injury. But I'll tell you, you don't draft a guy like this unless you have plans for him. Unless you have plans for him sooner than later. You don't draft a guy in the second round with your first pick because you traded out and assume he's going to play 6 years down the road.
Well, you heard Ron Jaworski personalize it. He was the quarterback in Philadelphia when suddenly they drafted Randall Cunningham, and I believe in a couple years things transpired there. We'll see what happens.
We don't know if it's a mistake with Kevin Cobb because we don't know how he's going to play at the next level. Yeah. Andy's a pretty good judge of talent, but I'm still a huge McNabb guy.
He could be Matt Schaub. Let's just keep it the value of quarterbacks. Let's say Donovan gets nicked up here and there. He plays a couple of games. Maybe he's the next guy to get 2 second-round picks. Just an idea.
And then they can trade him somewhere else.
Exactly.
That is a fair point. All right. And then lastly for you, Mark May, the best pick you've seen so far in the second round.
Well, it's tough to narrow it down to one. I really have two. I like Paul Posluszny, the pick for the Buffalo Bills from Penn State. Whenever you can get a Penn State linebacker that's tough, mean, nasty, can get the job done and very durable, you've got to take him. But the one I really like is by the Carolina Panthers. Marty Herney, the general manager at Carolina, has had a lot of success with offensive linemen. Ryan Khalil, the center out of USC, was predicted to be a #1 draft pick. He is the best center by far in this draft, and he will be a Pro Bowler down the road.
Don't you think he's going to start as a rookie?
Yes, he will.
I do. I believe
Carolina is doing what a lot of good teams like to do, build in the trenches. They get Beeson, the linebacker, in the first round when they go down 11 picks to get him, and they get Khalil to shore up that offensive line, which had been problematic for them last year.
Trey, that team is way too good to be as disappointing as they were last year with the expectations. There was no more disappointing team. I don't expect with Coach Fox coaching him for that to happen this year.
All of us, I believe, on this set, or Sean, I know you and I did pick Carolina to be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl.
Stay tuned. We'll have another one of those shows.
Our apologies for Lovie Smith for making that. Hey, good news, everybody. Round 3 is underway.
Yee-hee.
If these walls could talk, they'd say with field goal posts this narrow, threading the needle is not always done with your hands. If these walls could talk, they'd say you have to see it to believe it. Russell Athletic, ESPN Arena Football, Monday at 8 p.m. on ESPN2.
Honey, I think this might be our lucky day.
I think it might be.
I think this is what we've been waiting for.
I think it is. Yes! It turned blue!
Introducing the Coors Light Cold Activated Bottle. The mountains turn from white to blue when your beer reaches the perfect temperature.
It's blue like your eyes.
My eyes are green.
Only from Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
So DirecTV's got this super fan business that lets you watch 8 NFL games on one screen. If I watch all the games on Sunday, what am I going to read about in the John on Monday?
Sign up for NFL Sunday Ticket today and get Superfan for free.
With every kiss, with every step, love grows. The Journey 7-diamond necklace from Kay Jewelers. Multiple diamonds arranged from smallest to largest to symbolize how love has grown. Every kiss begins with Kay.
Yikes, you got the middle, but that's okay. You got Wendy's new Steakhouse Double Melt. You know how good the middle can be. Caramelized onions and mushrooms, bacon, creamy Swiss, and peppercorn sauce melted in the middle of 2 hot and juicy, fresh, never frozen beef patties. Good move, Mr. 14B. You just landed in the best position to do what tastes right.
I'm Dave Rebster with a
SportsCenter 30 of 30 update. Let's start you first with the top NFL draft news and the top NFL draft pick. Jamarcus Russell, quarterback from LSU, going to the Raiders. Notre Dame quarterback Brady Quinn slipped all the way to 22. The Browns ended up trading up to get him. ESPN's Ed Werder reports Cowboys owner Jerry Jones says he is committed to paying Terrell Owens his $3 million roster bonus due in June, meaning T.O. will remain in Dallas. NBA Pistons finish off a sweep of the Magic behind 25 from Chauncey Billups. LeBron 30.6 rebounds, 9 assists as the Cavs go up 3-zip on Washington. Details SportsCenter 11 Eastern, ESPN 2, ESPN News, anytime, Chris.
We've done this dance before, have we not?
First round selection.
With the first selection in the first round, the New York Jets select Keyshawn Johnson, wide receiver, Southern California.
And the Jets have just won the Super Bowl.
O'Donnell, look twice, has a man. Touchdown, Johnson's first as a pro. Keyshawn Johnson, first player taken in the draft, has the first of many NFL touchdowns.
I remember that young man. The Jets have just won the Super Bowl.
Who was that?
You got a little excited there, didn't you?
That was a penalty thrown in.
Hey, look, the Jets, they're still here.
They're still here.
Well, they are loyal. They're extremely loyal.
I mean, you led the whole draft off 96. That was, and you, as you said before, that first season you don't remember much.
No, I don't remember 1 and 15. Not at all. Our first year was in 97 under Bill Parcells.
I see. Yeah, things did change just a little bit. Let's look at today's wide receivers, and we didn't have one go 1, but we had one go number 2, and that would be Calvin Johnson. So, and the next one was a surprise with Ted Ginn Jr. going that high at 9. Then the big fella from LSU going to the Chiefs, Dwayne Bowe. Robert Meacham going to the New Orleans Saints. Greg Davis, the other receiver from LSU, going to the Chargers. So, then 6 in the first round with the slot receiver, Anthony Gonzalez, going to the Colts from Ohio State. Sidney Rice, South Carolina, Minnesota. Dwayne Jarrett, USC, going to Keyshawn's team, the Carolina Panthers. And fellow USC receiver Steve Smith going to the New York Football Giants. You go from college to the pros. What's the biggest adjustment you had to make?
You got to learn how to get off the press and get off the bump and run. If you don't know how to do that, you're going to be in trouble. In Miami's pick, I have to question. You take a guy that high at wide receiver and can't get off the press, can't get off the bump and run. I like him for what he does, but he's a punt returner. He's a punt returner.
Wait.
A story just popped into my mind. I had forgotten about it. I thought it was too high. But I remember talking to Nick Saban last year, and we were all saying, are they going to take a receiver in the middle of the first round? They were looking at Santonio Holmes, who was taken by the Pittsburgh Steelers later. Saban had a hard time focusing on Holmes because Ginn jumped off the film screen with him. And so even back then, they were very impressed with Ginn a year ago.
Hey, Morton, I agree with you. I'm looking at Aaron Ross, the corner from Texas. Who do I see running by him? Ted Ginn. I'm looking at the corner of Leon Hall from Michigan. What do I see? Ted Ginn running by him. He's an explosive playmaker. He's not just a punt return. Marvin Harrison, same kind of guy. The quickest, can get off the bump, and boy, he can accelerate.
But when you put your hands on a guy like that, you're in trouble. He's not Steve Smith. He's not Steve Smith.
No,
he's not physical enough to get off the jam.
Quick, my friend.
He's not physical enough to get off the jam for that pick. The value of the pick, though, Joe.
Put him in motion.
You take him off the line. You take him at the 8th spot when you could have moved down and picked him somewhere else.
There's no guarantee that someone else will jump it. This guy was highly rated.
It's a valid point Keyshawn's making. There was a big issue as to whether you had to take him right there.
Well, the thing is, had it not been for the foot injury, he'd have definitely been in that top 10 to 12. People wondered about the 40 time not being as good as it could have been, not yet 100%, whether he'd be there for the Tennessee Titans at pick number 19. Bottom line is, I think the big issue there was passing on Brady Quinn. If Ted Ginn, was no
they got John Beck in the second round.
They get John Beck, but the Brady Quinn scenario, the way it unfolded, was the reason why Ted Ginn was criticized so heavily at going number 9. They had no interest at all in Brady Quinn. We would have not criticized that pick as much.
I'm not criticizing Ted Ginn. I'm criticizing the organization for taking him that high. That's all I'm saying. I'm not, his skills
It was a
is
Brady
off the
Quinn
chart.
factor, though, Key. I'm telling you, if he goes 9 and Brady Quinn's not a necessity for Miami like we thought it was, obviously it was because they drafted a quarterback in the second round, Ted Ginn to Miami, you wouldn't have been a big issue because they need a wide receiver. He's got speed. Somebody was going to take him in the middle of the first. He wasn't going to late.
I think everybody's value is great up there except Miami. I think they reached a little bit. But everybody else, in my opinion, it's only my opinion.
It's all right.
Because we all have them. That's why I'm here working with y'all.
You know what?
But everybody that picked wide receivers, I think they got great value, except the Miami Dolphins. No, may come back and slap me in the face 5 years from now.
This is more about Brady Quinn versus John Beck than Ted Ginn in this equation. Ted Ginn's going to bring speed and versatility. It's John Beck against Brady Quinn. That's the way we're going to evaluate this.
But what if John Beck wouldn't have been there? Then what?
Trent Edwards. Yeah, they had other options. Bottom line is they passed on Brady Quinn.
That's why they play the games. That's why they have the draft. And by the way, we do want to say this as we wrap up the second round in a minute with a couple of picks. Just in case you were scoring at home, rounds 1 and 2, 9 hours and 20 minutes. Where would you rather be than right here, right now, to quote Marvel? Right? Look at these fans. 9 hours and 20 minutes in the first 2 rounds, and we're just steamrolling into the third. Now, let's go back to the second to last pick of the second round because the Green Bay Packers, team that lost Amon Green, they got a running back. So, the Packers pick Brandon Jackson, running back Nebraska. And Keyshawn, I give you the nod. You pointed out, hey, they had success with Amon Green, Nebraska.
Could be
they
something.
traded from Seattle. Let's try another Nebraska back. So Brandon Jackson, late second. Value, Mel?
Shoulder injuries hampered him. Then Nebraska had a stable of running backs. He was a forgotten man. First 5 games this year, does hardly anything. Then he comes on late in the year, had some huge games. Oklahoma State, Colorado, runs wild, shows speed, shows game-breaking ability, caught the ball very effectively out of the backfield. Very little tread on those tires. Got a lot of momentum late. Comes out after his junior year. Very little productivity except late in the season. And now you're rolling the dice based on what you saw over the last 6 or 7 games of the year. That this kid has the ability to come into the NFL for a team who's going to give him an opportunity, obviously, the Green Bay Packers, to run with the football.
Well, somebody I trust on running back evaluations, and the Packers were looking at Marshawn Lynch of Cal as a possible first-round pick. He went before them. They told me about this kid. He's a great kid, came from a tough family background, overcome a lot, was in a rotation, as you know, did this for, came out for financial reasons, has been coached hard by Bill Callahan there in Nebraska, similar type system. He's going to run in Green Bay, has great character, perfectionist. I was told he would stay on a practice field for an hour if it was just to work on a technique. Great vision, great cutback. I think it's a great fit.
Probably happy with it. A guy that came up to say hello to us before the draft who was here. Jim Taylor, who was a pretty decent running back for the Green Bay Packers, the Hall of Famer. He's probably thrilled his whole team drafted a running back in the second round. Now, Tampa Bay finished. That's Savvy Piscatelli, the defensive back from Oregon State. That's the last pick of the second round. That's the Booker McFarland trade that Tampa was picking in.
Big safety with some speed. You see him there anticipating coming away with a pick. You saw him in coverage against Dwayne Jarrett. You saw him on special teams. 6'2 and a half, 224 pounds. Ran a 4.47 at the combine. Vertical 34 and a half. Out-juked a little bit in the open field. Didn't break down as well in space. I thought he missed some open field tackles. Doesn't play as fast as he times. But he's a big safety who had a pretty good career at Oregon State. You know, you look at him, I think the workout really helped him. The run under 4.5 at 6'2 and a half, 224 made him a second-round draft.
And that's a plus for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go out and get this guy because they're still trying to replace John Lynch after letting him go. And he looks like a player like John Lynch, but a much faster guy.
And he goes back close to home because he goes back to Tampa Bay. He's from Boca Raton, even though he played his college football at Oregon State. And then we start the third round. Holy Moses, Quentin Moses, Georgia, goes at the top of the third round to the Oakland Raiders.
Back in August, he was one of the elite 10 players for this draft in terms of the senior class. Had a average year at best, outplayed by Charles Johnson, a junior who came out early. You know, his sack total, his tackles for loss total, everything dropped. He wasn't a dominator, but he had that big junior year. Charles Johnson outplayed him. Charles Johnson had a good workout. Charles Johnson is still on the board. Quentin Moses is selected. So here's a senior off at round 3, first pick in round 3 to Oakland. The junior that outplayed him still on the board. These underclassmen are getting hit. They're getting penalized, and they're losing ground in terms of where they would go in the draft had they gone back to college. Charles Johnson's a great example of that. Another year, he'd have been a top 15 pick next season. Here he is in round 3, still available, and the guy he outplayed is off the board.
And he will benefit with Derek Burgess on the other side. inside who's going to draw the double team in Oakland. He'll get the single blocks. Quentin Moses should be able to handle that.
So here's what the Raiders did, and they also made that trade. Russell, of course, the first pick of the entire draft, the tight end Zach Miller. Throw to him. Quentin Moses that we just talked about, and then Mike Williams, the former #1 pick for Detroit a couple of years back, and Josh Tears of McCown going from Detroit to Oakland. So Oakland with a lot of roster moves on this day. And then Dallas goes for
James Martin.
Did we do New Orleans? So we didn't do that. But Dallas picks James Martin, BC.
6'7.5", 311 pounds. He can fill out, add some pounds to his frame. You're talking about a guy who still can get a little stronger, a guy who can still fill out on that 6'7.5" frame. Played both guard and tackle at the collegiate level. Spent 5 years in the ACC. Good athletic ability. You look at a guy right now who has a chance. I think with a year of development, he can be a factor. He was in that second tier of tackles. Marshall Yonda from Iowa's in this group. Jermon Bushrod from Towson's in this group. Mario Henderson from Florida State. There was a drop-off after the top 4 tackles. Yonda, Martin in that next tier.
So here's the Cowboys. Spencer, the pass rushing ace from Purdue, and then Martin, the offensive tackle from Boston College. Tampa Bay then went behind that, and outside linebacker Quincy Black from New Mexico began as a defensive end, same school that gave us Brian Urlacher.
Fast speed, that's his game. You talk about moving him around and trying to get him in positions where he can make plays. This kid is an athlete who can run like a deer. You talk about a kid who can fly. 6'1.5", 237 pounds, 4.42s consistently, 42-inch vertical jump. Not real instinctive, though. Locating the ball, finding the football, not his forte on a consistent basis, but speed and athleticism definitely are. Kind of like a Thomas Howard type. Came out of UTEP last year to Oakland, but they're rolling the dice. Said, hey, you can get him in the right spot. Special teams should be a big factor. One of the fastest defensive players, most athletic defensive players in this draft, just not real instinctive.
It's just good to see the Buccaneers addressing the defense. Long overdue.
Well, they're doing a good job at it. Obviously, when they were winning a lot of games, the defense was young and athletic and fast, and so they're starting to get back at that now.
Young man, grew up in a tough situation, grew up in the inner city of Chicago. Father and mother passed away. Quincy Black having a chance to play pro football with Tampa Bay. And now here's Buster Davis, inside linebacker, Florida State going to Arizona.
See, you talk about chiseled, 5'9.5", doesn't have the ideal height, but a guy that was a factor. Watch him there, number 7, 242 pounds. There's a tackle in the open field on Greg Olson. Plays with a lot of enthusiasm, intensity. It's after the quarterback to see him here on the blitz. You see the ability to close, the speed he had there, sacking Kyle Wright. This kid was a difference maker at the inside linebacker spot for Florida State. At one point in time, you would have thought maybe early to mid-second round. Kind of lost a little momentum through the draft process, but I tell you, forget the height factor. The kid's a good football player.
There are a lot of short light. Look at Zach Thomas and London Fletcher. What are they, 5'10"? And they are Pro Bowl type players in this league. You can play in this league at that position and still be short.
There are a lot of linebackers people think are huge, but they're actually small.
Carlos Dansby, another linebacker, outstanding pass rusher, good pass defender, combined with Buster Davis. Cardinals coming on.
Well, they've this is the new regime there. Ken Whisenant, Russ Grimm right behind him on the coaching staff and company. Now, Brian Harris, offensive tackle, Notre Dame, goes to the Denver Broncos with the pick number 70 overall.
At a first-round grade going into the year, Boone, he slipped dramatically this year in terms of his overall output. You see him there getting the job done, but guys were able to beat him to the outside, get a little push in the pocket there in terms of power and strength, would be able to get the best of Ryan Harris. Did not play to the level of his junior campaign. Grade dropped to the point where I thought he could maybe be a 4th-round pick. Goes at the top of the 3rd. You hope he can revert back to the form because Charlie Weiss thought going into the year this kid was going to be one of his 4 or 5 or 6 first-round draft choices. Just didn't play to that level. That's the reason Brady Quinn took a lot of hits. His left tackle didn't get the job done on a game-to-game basis.
And they're a team, Jaws, as you know, is going to become a pocket-passing team with Jay Cutler as their quarterback and Patrick Ramsey, their backup quarterback. So getting a lineman, getting a tackle that can help form that pocket so Jay Cutler can pick people apart, a priority for Mike Shannon.
A little bit of insurance to see if Matt Lepsis can come back.
That's correct.
All right, two picks we want to get you updated on. New Orleans, which was the 2nd pick in the 3rd round, Usama Young, quarterback, Kent State. I had another coach talking to just a little while ago, hoping that he would slip today, number 2, a team that didn't have a third-round pick. So Kent State, but there are a lot of people that had targeted him, Mel. You like this?
Well, his speed. I think that's what got done. Average player with good workouts. And teams had been pushing him up. Some thought he was a late-round pick. Others, a lot of mixed opinion on Usama Young. Obviously, the workout helped him. He was a veteran, played a lot of football at Kent State, goes in the third round. A lot of teams would say slight reach, but hey, we'll see what happens.
New Orleans can use help.
Needs a corner.
They can do that. And now, just a moment ago, Miami, obviously, with Cam Cameron. Now we already debated Ted Ginn Jr., but now they go with a third down back, really a change of pace back, running back from Florida State, Lorenzo Booker. So Miami's got some speed here to this offense in the draft.
Okay, much talked about coming into the collegiate ranks out of high school, was expected to be a great player. I think it was a very good player. Hampered by an offensive line at Florida State that frankly was one of the worst in the ACC or most disappointing, and he didn't have a lot of running room. He had to create on his own. He was expected to be the next work done, never materialized into that kind of player, but he can catch the football out of the backfield. He's a tough little guy, good moves there, quick feet, he can accelerate. You talk about a guy who has talent. It's a shame that that offensive line didn't give him more running room. A lot of his yards he created on his own, and as a third down back, as a change of pace type home run hitter, Lorenzo Booker's a good football player.
Reminds me of Brian Westbrook from the Philadelphia Eagles. That kind of running back can make plays.
Third round pick?
Third round pick? That's why I mentioned it, Boom.
I know it, Joe.
On top of it.
You are on top of it after 10 hours. Now, here's Miami thus far. So we debated Ginn, but then they got a quarterback in Beck and Samson Satelli, who played, shotgun offense. That doesn't mean that you can't snap with the quarterback right behind you, but he hadn't had the experience in it. June Jones plays the run and shoot and all sorts of fun out there. And Lorenzo Booker running back Florida State. Now, okay, so running back goes to Miami. Ricky Williams is out there. What are his chances of coming back with the Miami Dolphins or anywhere?
Well, Ricky Williams is now eligible for reinstatement. He became eligible for reinstatement from his year-long suspension for the substance abuse policy on Friday. It's likely that Commissioner Roger Goodell wants to meet with Ricky before he makes a decision to reinstate him. By all accounts, according to his agent Lee Steimer, he has been submitting himself to random tests. He's been passing those tests. I think the Dolphins want him, even though they have Ronnie Brown and now Lorenzo Booker. Booker, as we mentioned, a third down caliber back. When Ricky Williams played his last season with the Dolphins, they felt in that last 6 weeks that he was a better back than Ronnie Brown. And for a team that has questions at quarterback, as we know, some questions even at wide receiver, to have a Ricky Williams on that team, yes, I think he would be welcomed back by the Dolphins if he gets reinstated.
And I believe that back by the league?
I believe that's likely that he will be welcomed back by the league. If in fact he has passed all the tests and the doctor said yes, he's a go.
All told, in Canada, of course, your injury plague season up there with Toronto.
Yeah, it's a different league up there and everything. I know this much. The coaching staff that remains from Nick Saban's staff told Cam Cameron, the new head coach, we like this guy.
Well, he certainly... It's an interesting dynamic in that clubhouse with the guys who have been there a long time, whether it be Zach and Jason Taylor, etc. We'll see what happens. We have, my goodness, we're moving along in the third round. We'll be back in a moment.
I want this guy.
Adrian Peterson?
Yes. Peterson breaks down the middle. Touchdown, Oklahoma.
Yeah. That's our guy.
All new.
I've been seeing Carlos.
4 Sundays in a row, leading to an explosive season finale.
I am totally, hopelessly in love with 2 men.
An all-new Desperate Housewives Sunday at 9/8 Central, only on ABC.
Sunday, 2 National League Central rivals clash.
Let's go!
Hot-hitting Derek Lee looks to keep the Cubs on pace with Albert Pujols and the world champion Cards. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, 8 Eastern.
Separate yourself from the herd. The innovative Ridgeline from Honda.
So this DirecTV superfan tchotchke lets you watch an entire game in 30 minutes? There's no shortcuts in football, Buttercup. Football is hard work. And groin pulls.
Sign up for NFL Sunday Ticket today and get Superfan for free.
The kids have a surprise for you.
The Leo Diamond, certified for superior brilliance. Hand selected to match beautifully by K Jewelers.
Every kiss begins with K.
Yes, it's time to vacation. Dollar Millionaire style.
Road trip.
With outstanding McDonald's fries and outlandish legroom. This cabin is first class all the way.
Oh, these people don't fly coach, but they're pretty fly.
They're also decked out with decadent double cheeseburgers and other dollar menu delicacies. No, they don't need a 5-star hotel. They've got $5 million.
Bethan!
What's up, you?
Your cell phone bill is what's up. All this texting.
OMG, INBD.
It is a big deal. Who are you texting 50 times a day?
IDK, my BFF Jill.
Tell your BFF Jill that I'm taking away your phone.
GISNF.
Me paying this bill, that's what's S. Dan F.
Now too much texting is NBD. Singular brings you unlimited texting, just $5 more a month. And get Mom a red pearl for Mother's Day. Singular is now the new AT&T. Your world delivered.
This is the NFL Draft on ESPN, presented by Coors Light.
All right, we're back here in New York. Now, this third round. Minnesota goes defensive back from Fresno State, Marcus McCauley. And you could say McCauley was a good open field tackler. High school kick return, punt return, versatile.
Great junior year. You look at Fresno State for Pat Hill as a junior. He was outstanding, had a high grade going into the season. He had intercepted 8 passes, had a good game against Dwayne Jarrett, held Jarrett to only 5 catches for 37 yards. Enters the year with a high grade and disappoints, whether it was senioritis, whatever. He was beaten. He just did not have the concentration, and the overall skill level was not shown on the football field. This is a kid with size, with recovery ability, all the skills you want, but he did not put it all together as a senior, and all of a sudden his stock dropped from a first-round pick all the way to a third-round pick. You don't know what Marcus McCauley you're getting. If you're getting the 2005 version, you're happy. 2006 version, you're going to be very disappointed.
Well, they hope they get the 2005 version. And Adrian Peterson, they hope they get the 2004 version. I think that would be pretty good. And they're holding their breath in Minnesota, hoping that Peterson would get to that spot. They drafted him. That started a good day for the Vikings. Let's go up to Trey Wingo and the gang at NFL Live.
All right, Boomer, thanks. You're right. I don't think Minnesota thought Adrian Peterson would be there. And, yes, they would love the 2004. I'm sure they'd be just as happy with the 2005 and the 2006 minus that little pesky collarbone issue, Mark, when he dove into the end zone. But what, in your opinion, Mark May, makes this guy, Adrian Peterson, so special?
Because he's a total package. He's going to punish you when he has the football. He has a nasty streak running the football, and he does it all. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He can block and pick up blitzes. And what I like about Adrian Peterson, every time he touches the football, he's going to deliver the blow to you. He's going to make sure, Sean, that you feel the pain. The pain is coming as a defender when Adrian Peterson runs the football.
I don't want to feel the pain.
You don't want to feel the pain.
But somebody else is going to. And Trey, you said the 2005 guy. I'll take the 1995 Adrian Peterson when he was 8. That's how good this kid is. I believe. I'm not worried about the upright running. I'm not worried about the durability. The collarbone will be fine. I think this guy's a full-grown man. Not only do I believe he can go in and start, I believe he can tote it 300-plus times and get himself 1,400 yards right off the bat. Love him. I believe he was the second or third within the top 5 players in this draft. I think he's going to be a superstar at the next level, and I think he's a great young kid.
You know, you laugh when you say you take when he's 8-year-old. We had Darren Woodson on the show on NFL Live, and Adrian Peterson from the Dallas area came into the locker room, Michael Smith, and when the Cowboys were there and they saw this kid from high school come in, they're like, let's draft that guy right now.
Right.
I mean, they were ready when he was in high school to suit him up.
All the tape I studied of him and Pop Warner.
Yeah.
But Trey, Charles talking about the durability, and that's the one knock about him. How long can he last?
Hogwash.
You know,
forget it.
No, but I was talking to some coaches about him, about his running style, how he can last in this league. And what they said is all Adrian Peterson has to learn how to do, not change his running style, but slightly tweak his mentality, not to attack defenders head on the way he does, but to attack the edge of defenders. That way he's not taking those full-on blows like that. But this is a home run threat for the Minnesota Vikings, who also got a great pickup in Sidney Rice, some of the best hands in the draft, and we know that was a problem.
All that big fella has to do is give him some thigh pad and look out.
Well, I think that would make Brad Childress, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, very happy if he would tweak just a little bit the way he delivers that blow to the defender. And joining us now, thanks to Coors Light video conferencing, is the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Brad Childress. Brad, how surprised were you that Adrian Peterson was there when you picked at 7?
Well, I think we had it figured about that way, Trey. I thought that he had a chance to come to us. We had to be patient. Sometimes you want to pull the trigger a little bit prematurely there, but we were elated that he was there.
Clearly, since you've been there, running the ball has been a priority for the Minnesota Vikings. You had Chester Taylor over 1,200 yards last year. How do you plan to use both Taylor and now Adrian Peterson in the backfield?
Well, you know, we did a little bit of that in Philadelphia with Buckhalter and Westbrook, and I think it's a great change-up if you can find a way to not let the defense screw their cleats in the ground and kind of get a pace of somebody. It's always good to keep them fresh and kind of throw the defense some change-ups.
Right before you sat down, we were talking about the only knock really against Adrian Peterson. Brad, that was the durability issue. How much of a concern was that for you when you were deciding whether or not to take him?
Well, you know, we feel like we did our due diligence on that, Trey. We were able to get him in here from New York. He was shooting a commercial, and he stopped on his way back to Oklahoma City. So we got a chance to physical him. He'll have another extensive physical, but we just thought the upside was too much that you could go by.
Well, it certainly looks like you've got the running game taken care of. We know you can stop the run in Minnesota. 61 plus something yards per game, best in the league last year. Defensively against the pass was the big concern, 31st in the league in 06. Marcus McCauley, the cornerback, what do you like about this kid?
Well, he's a big corner. I think there's a premium in those guys. A big corner that can run. I think he's a 4.39 guy, can play some press coverage. He's not afraid to put an edge on a sweep. So you like those big men on the flanks that can run and cover and get that one bump in 5 yards.
Brad, we appreciate the time. Good first day, and good luck on the second day of the draft.
Thank you, Trey.
Brad Childress, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And it certainly seems like Adrian Peterson, they had him figured, so they did their due diligence. They thought he could plan that. You like the combination of Taylor and Peterson in the backfield?
Absolutely. In this era of the NFL, you need two running backs, and behind a great offensive line, particularly the left side, and Steve Hutchinson and Brian McKinney. If Adrian Peterson gets the carries, 300 yards plus, he will be the Rookie of the Year, and he'll be in a Pro Bowl. He'll get an opportunity to tote the ball 300 to 400 times. I think he can do it, and I think he'll be physical and healthy enough to do it for the entire season.
There's another guy who's looking for some good things out of their team, too, the Houston Texans, huh?
That would be absolutely correct. The Houston Texans had the 10th overall pick in the first round, and for the second straight year in the first round, they went defensive tackle. And I believe we are joined now by Coors Light video conferencing, the head coach of the Houston Texans, Gary Kubiak. It's as if Sean knew it was coming, Gary. Listen, Amobi Okoye is 19 years old. What, if anything, concerns you about that with the defensive tackle you took out of Louisville?
Well, hopefully it means he gets to play a lot longer than everybody else. But, you know, we're just very excited to get the young man. We were surprised that he lasted until the 10th pick, that he was there with our pick. And we feel like he gives us an inside player with some pass rush ability. And, you know, we're committed to building this defense here. It started with Mario and D'Amico last year, and it'll continue with him this year. And just trying to get better, and very excited about him.
Coach, how can he make Mario Williams a better player?
Well, I think anytime you've got more than one inside right there, you know, people got to worry, you know, about a couple of guys. So, you know, he's got to help him. He's got to help our whole defensive football team. He's got to help keep guards and centers off of D'Amico as a Mike linebacker. But, you know, we're very young football team and very young on defense. And we made some strides last year after our start, and hopefully we can continue to do that with players such as Moby.
You didn't get any older with Amobi Okoye. I can guarantee you that. Now, he's listed at 6'1", about 300 pounds. Can you put more weight on him to sort of bulk him up a little bit because he's going to be going up against the big boys inside?
Well, his weight has fluctuated a little bit. You know, people have talked about that. He's been anywhere from 285 to 310, and we definitely think he can add a little bit of weight. But the one thing that we like about him is the fact that he's so active inside. The way he gets after the quarterback, the way he chases the ball, and you know, we just feel like he's only going to get better, and the fact that he's young, to me, it's a positive, and we're just really looking forward to his presence with our football team.
Coach, Amobi Okoye may be the story of the day, but the story of the offseason for the Texans franchise is the switch at quarterback from David Carr to Matt Schaub. What can Matt Schaub do for you guys that you didn't think David Carr could?
Well, you know, I don't want to go that route with that question. I think I just want Matt to come in here and do his job. I think he's got a chance to be an excellent quarterback. Studied him very hard coming out of college, was very impressed with him. He's been through the so-called growing pains of the National Football League here over the past couple of years and learning a great deal with Michael Vick and the Atlanta Falcons. He's been coached extremely well. I just feel like he's ready to be a starter in the National Football League. we felt like it was time for a change of direction of leadership, so we got aggressive in that area, and we're very excited about him.
Well, you certainly did. Gary, we appreciate the time, and I'm sure we'll talk to you throughout the second day of the draft. Thanks for being with us.
All right, Terry, have a good evening.
Gary Kubiak, head coach of the Houston Texans. The age issue. We talked about it, I don't know, 7, 8 hours ago, with Amobi Okoye at 19. There is upside in this, in the fact that the kid comes in young, he can learn, and like you said, he'll play a lot longer. What concerns you, Mark May, about a 19-year-old playing in the NFL?
Well, one, his age, obviously, at 19 years old. He's going to be going against full-grown men in the NFL, 25 and 30-year-old men. And not only that, at 6'1", 300 pounds, he's going to have to bulk up, but will that be enough? He's got to be the perfect technician. When he plays at this point in his career, he plays high a lot. If he does that at the next level, he's going to get blown off the line of scrimmage, Sean.
I'm still trying to figure out why everybody says a 6'1", 300-pound 19-year-old needs to bulk up. Somebody please tell me it. And he's inside. He's inside as a tackle, who's a disruptor, who can keep people, as Gary Kubiak said, off his linebackers' legs. And if you can do that, one of these guys eventually, whether it's Mario Williams or whether it's Okoye, starts to draw a double team and makes everybody else better. And I think the age is a positive, because a lot of times these guys that are 25, 26, 27 years old aren't willing to learn something new. I think at 19, heck, by the time he's 22, he could be in 3 Pro Bowls, and he's still got 10 years to go. I like this pick by Koob. I think it's a good one, and I think it's going to benefit Mario Williams as much as anything down the road.
Not only do I like this pick, but I like the direction of this franchise. You got to give a lot of credit to Rick Smith, the general manager, and Gary Kubiak, both coming from under Mike Shanahan in Denver. These guys had one of the best drafts in the entire NFL last year, with all the rookies they had contributing. It was very defensive heavy this year. This offseason, you look at, they add Matt Schaub, who's very highly coveted. They get Amon Green, who they feel like still has some years left on him. They get Sean Barber to help out the defense. Now Amobi Okoye. This team has a long way to go before it catches Indianapolis, but you have to like the shrewd moves that Smith and Kubiak are making down in Houston.
Well, the one thing you can say for sure about the draft of Mario Williams, first overall a year ago, they said they drafted him because they needed a pass rusher to get to the Colts and Peyton Manning. They had never beaten him. They beat him last year. They did beat him once. Now they've got Okoye, and as you mentioned, Amon Green. This team is building from the inside out, very much the philosophy
Good teams always do, Trey.
we've seen in Denver.
It's a good foundation there.
That is the foundation you need to be. Much more coming on the draft. Third round is motoring along, good people. The Packers, who used to employ Amon Green, are on the clock.
Love this 7-layer dip. You can't jump with dip. No, it's a 7-layer crunch wrap. 7-layer dip wrapped up. See? It's good to go. It's good to go. It's good to go. Uh-oh.
Taco Bell's new 7-layer crunch wrap. Hearty beans and warm nacho cheese sauce layered with cool sour cream and guacamole. Wrapped up and good to go. To get the great taste of 7-layer dip, think outside the bun.
This one. Yes. Want me to drive?
Don't see space anywhere.
Right there. Go, 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 go. Nice.
The Kia Spectra, 35 miles per gallon and fun to drive. Now with 0% APR plus 1,000 bonus cash.
I'm up. Biggest pick of the draft. 5th pick, 6th round. TJ Houshmandzadeh. Yes, lock it up.
Who? What?
TJ, how's the vanilla? All right. TJ, who's your mama?
NFL.com Fantasy Rule 17. Know how to pronounce your draft picks.
You mean TJ Houshmandzadeh from the Bengals?
Put him on the board. Houshmandzadeh. Got it. Championship.
Go to NFL.com/fantasy for early bird specials sign-up offer.
Yeah, can I get the love handles, double chin, and some blubber?
Do you want the double blubber?
Sure.
And I'll have the same thing, but instead of the blubber, can I get some fender thighs and a badonkadonk butt?
Please drive around.
When you get greasy fast food, what are you really getting? The new Subway Fresh Fit meals fit into the American Heart Association's approach to a healthy lifestyle. Tasty, low-fat subs with better-for-you sides and a drink. Subway, eat fresh.
The girls of the OIA are ready to take the season to another level. It's the postseason here on OC16, where you'll see the best teams in the OIA battle it out for their quest to claim the league's top prize. Be sure to tune in this Friday night, live from Mililani High School Gymnasium. It's the OIA quarterfinals. First game of the doubleheader tips off at 5:30. OIA girls basketball, the playoff edition. The only place you'll see it is OC16.
Brought to you by Zippy's, Pizza Hut, and the Tony Group Autoplex.
We steamrolled through the third round of the draft on ESPN2. Meanwhile, over on ESPN, Spurs and Nuggets Game 3 in Denver. And right now you see San Antonio with an 11-point lead with about 8 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. As for the draft, who else but Chris Berman has more?
All right, here we are back in Radio City Music Hall. And the Loyal are with us. And you all folks out there, we appreciate you hanging with. This is the third-round picks are going to help your football team. There's no question about that. And let's get started with, let's see, we last did Minnesota. Why don't we start with Houston? 73rd pick, Jacoby Jones, wide receiver from Tiny Lane College.
Out of the prep ranks in New Orleans, boom, was a track guy, sprinter on the track team, basketball player in high school, goes to Lane, punt returner, kick returner, big play wide receiver, good size at 6'2 and a half, 208 to 212 pounds, ran a 4.49 at the combine, good football player, still needs to obviously come into the NFL, coming from a lower level of competition, will need a year or two, but while he's learning the ropes at wide receiver, learning the nuances of that position, adjusting to the NFL, he can help out in the return game as one of the top 4 or 5 true return men in this draft.
I already like that those highlights were at the Texan Stadium, apparently, so he knows the turf. All right, so here's what Houston has done. You just saw Gary Kubiak on with Trey, the youngster Okoye. By the way, an aside, Okoye is 19, right?
Yep.
John Beck is 26?
Yep.
So 7 years difference of 2 guys going in one draft. That's a record.
Well,
I'm saying that's a record.
Brown education's working.
All right. Yaman Figures, Kansas State wide receiver, goes to Baltimore. Mel, there it is at the bottom. The fastest.
Yep, fast 4.29, 4.3 speed, no question. This guy's a vertical threat. Problem is, he's got small hands, dropped some balls at Kansas State, had some drops at the combine workout, but he has speed to burn. Great return man, and that's where with B.J. Sams coming off the leg injury, he'll be unrestricted in after 2007. They want a return man. B.J. Sams lost to injury, was critical to that football team late in the year. This kid will be obviously one of the primary return men on this football team, and he can fly. His consistency catching the football leaves a lot to be desired. He'll beat you deep while he catches the football. So his value is his speed and his return ability, especially for a team that puts a priority with B.J. Sams in the return game.
He looks like he runs fly.
You only have one. It's a single-digit number. You know the guy's fast. Number 3.
Looks like Ted Ginn to me. Keyshawn's coming around.
Fastest guy at the combine. Now here it is. Well, and it's interesting that the next guy at the combine fastest is one of the next draft picks, Jason Hill, at 4.3. Mel.
Well, exactly. It's amazing. The only one left is Mike Walker out of Central Florida. Had some injury problems at Central Florida, but a good player, played on both sides of the ball. But you look at all these other guys, they're all selected by now. Speed, talent. You talk about guys that can run and be a threat. Yaman Figures' versatility in the return game. Jason Hill, big junior year. This year, the senior year wasn't quite as good, but Mort, the kid's got speed. He put up a lot of touchdowns in the Pac-10.
If I'm a 49er fan, I'm excited because Jason Hill is a guy who was productive as a junior. As a senior, his mother was ill. He spent some time down there. He got a little bit heavy. This guy's a great, not only has a chance to be an excellent receiver, great special teams player. Plays gunner on special teams, has blocked some kicks. The 49ers might have gotten a great steal here in Jason Hill of Washington.
Well, that was a couple of picks later at 76. The Niners, and he caught a lot of balls and not that many games, Mel. 148 catches, Jason Hill, in 31 games.
Mel, Tennessee has not picked a wide receiver yet. What's the deal?
Well, you look, they're coming up. I mean, as far as Tennessee's concerned, I think it depends on how their board flows. 5 of the last 6 selections have been wide receivers. So, Tennessee is on the clock, but a lot of these guys are starting to come off the board. You look at guys like right now, Jason Hill was the next best. You have Andre Allison at East Carolina, Paul Williams at Fresno State, who will be a heck of a special teams player while he's adjusting to wide receiver in the NFL. Rima McKnight at Notre Dame, pretty good football player, came off the injury list. Decent year, not a great year. So there's some wide receivers that can help Tennessee on the board at this point.
We had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 go in a row. Let's go back a little bit. Atlanta with the 75th pick overall. You know it's Stanley Cup playoff time, so at some point we're going to have to talk about hockey. So Laurent Robinson, wide receiver of Illinois State, goes to Atlanta. They also later on made a trade for Serge Savard and Guy Lapointe. What do we know about him, though?
He's got good size, and he can run, and he's very athletic. Making the tough catch in traffic is something he needs to prove he can do. But against Minnesota and Iowa State, he did a good job. So he wasn't just a product of the 1AA competition. The kid, as I said, it's 6'2", 197 pounds, ran a 4.38 at the combine, vertical nearly 40 inches. But again, will he be intimidated against those safeties, those corners that will be more physically gifted, obviously, than the cornerbacks and defensive backs he worked against at the collegiate level? So I think, again, catching the football in traffic, will it be a third or fourth option? That's the best scenario. Can he develop into a third or fourth option for the Atlanta Falcons and Michael Vick?
Bobby Petrino likes those bigger receivers, and we know that they've spent draft picks on Michael Jenkins, on Roddy White. They've got Joe Horn in there, but Hugh Jackson is their offensive coordinator. You know, he was in Cincinnati when you picked up receivers like T.J. Houshmandzadeh and Chris Henry in later rounds, and certainly Paul Petrino's Bobby's brother, receivers coach, great receivers coach. I think they expect production out of those receivers they have used those #1 picks on in the past. And they will get production out of him at some point in time. Joe Horn's there to mentor him. They brought Joe in to mentor the other guys, so this is a good start to something special in Atlanta.
All right, well, we're talking about Bobby Petrino. We're talking about Atlanta through the magic of television. Trey, it's your turn. Let's bring in the new coach.
All right, Chris, thanks very much. This is the first draft experience for Bobby Petrino, but so much of the Atlanta Falcons, whenever you talk about it, has to be what they're doing with their quarterback in Michael Vick. This has been an unusual week for Michael Vick, to say the least. Allegations of a dogfighting ring in a house he owns in Virginia, and then, of course, he missed a plane when he was scheduled to go to Capitol Hill to lobby for more funding for after-school programs. On that backdrop, we now welcome in the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons via Coors Light video conferencing, Bobby Petrino. Bobby, have you talked to Mike at all about the things that have gone along this week, and what have those conversations been like?
Well, I've certainly talked to Michael, and you know, we've got him doing everything we want him to do as far as football goes. He's done a nice job in the off-season program. He's in here every day lifting and working hard at it. I think he's excited to run our offense and excited about the opportunities ahead of him and what we ask the quarterbacks to do. We've got to make sure we take care of the issues off the field so that we can get his focus completely on football.
How do you do that, Bobby?
Well, he knows he needs to do some things with his family and getting his life in order and doing everything just right. And I have been very impressed with the way he's conducted his business in the off-season program and how much he's looking forward to the season coming up.
Well, let's talk about the draft here. You clearly like the University of Arkansas in the first couple of rounds of this draft. You go Jamal Anderson, the defensive end, out of Arkansas in the first round. What made him the right fit for you guys?
Well, I think the fact that we went in, we wanted to get bigger. We had a definite need at left defensive end. And we also wanted someone who could rush the passer. So he has the ability to do both. His size to stop the run and shed blocks and run to the football. And then I like the way he can rush the passer. I think he helps us a lot being able to do both.
No question you wanted to get bigger. Justin Blaylock was the right guy to take, the big tackle out of Texas. You also went for the cornerback in the second round, Chris Houston. What do you like about his game?
Well, Chris is a guy that can cover one-on-one. You feel good about putting him out there and letting him go one-on-one. He's very competitive and he's very fast. So I think he'll be a guy to come in and play right away at corner for us.
Bobby, one name that has not been called yet in the draft is a guy you coached last year in college, Michael Bush, the running back that could have been a Heisman potential candidate, broke his leg in that game against Kentucky. Have you talked to him? What do you hear about what's going on with Michael Bush in the draft?
Yeah, I've talked to Michael a lot throughout the entire process, and you know, he unfortunately had to go back in and have another operation, get a longer rod put in. He feels good about it. The doctors feel good about it. They think the healing process is going. So it's a shame that he had that injury, but given the time, Michael will be back and playing here soon.
Would you draft him?
I'd definitely like to draft him.
All right, Bobby, we appreciate the time, and best of luck through the second day of the draft.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bobby Petrino, new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And, of course, Michael Bush is the player he may have again as we go forward through the rest of the rounds of this year's draft. The story with Atlanta, guys, is going to be Michael Vick. They traded away, the Falcons did this offseason, Matt Schaub. We just talked to Gary Kubiak, the head coach of the Texans, where he went. So it's basically all on Michael Vick's shoulders right now. He's had a bad week. We had the issue at the Miami airport in the offseason where nothing came of that, but it was another thing that came up. What does Michael Vick need to do, as you heard Bobby talk about, to become more of a leader on this team away from the field?
He needs to clean up his act. He needs to make sure that if he is in the media, in the news, it's a positive message he's sending. It's about football and what he's going to do on the field of play, not his problems off the field of play. And another thing, I think Atlanta has to get another quarterback, somebody that's behind Michael Vick that's pushing him, because right now he's the guy. He doesn't have to worry about anything. He doesn't have Matt Schaub there where he has to look over his shoulder. Right now, he really doesn't have to account for a quarterback behind him.
Mayday, since you talked about the stuff off the field, and I believe Michael's a good guy and a good kid and will get his stuff in order, and I believe he'll be focused on football. But Trey, where I disagree, I think for the first time, this isn't going to fall all on Mike's shoulder. What it tells me by trading Matt Schaub is that Bobby Petrino has a tremendous amount of belief in what, as does Arthur Blank, the owner, and what Michael Vick's all about, or you wouldn't have traded away Matt Schaub. You got a guy now, if you can build a run game, which we know they got, you go out and get some receivers finally who can close and catch. And Joe Horn, who's been a great player in this league for a long time. I actually think this is a great plus for Michael, because a lot of times quarterback puts so much stuff on himself that they forget to realize just go out and play. What I think is they're trying to build around him offensively and defensively, so Mike doesn't have to feel like he has to dress in a phone booth every single snap.
You know what I'm talking about here. This is a very user-friendly system that Bobby Petrino is going to install here. And Michael Vick, from an on-the-field standpoint, has already shown a lot of commitment. Showed up earlier than usual to work out at the facility, is really buying into the system that Bobby Petrino and Hugh Jackson are installing. Joe Horn is going to do great for those young core receivers. They picked up another one, Robinson. Remember that name. He's going to be a real sleeper pick that's going to do wonders for that team. But like Sean said, the idea for Michael Vick is not to think of this as a make-or-break year. We got to be patient with him. This is his third system, third head coach, four if you count Wade Phillips on an interim basis. The successful quarterbacks have stability around them. That's what the Falcons have to do, is give him stability.
When is Michael Vick going to get it? I mean, seriously, when is it going to become a point in time where he's going to get it and say, my complete focus is on football? Because if you can't make it in this offense with Bobby Petrino, because he can make this offense, as you said, user-friendly, because remember, he had the rollout offense with Stephon LaFleur when he was at Louisville, so he's going to make sure that it's going to be easy for Michael Vick. If he doesn't get it under Bobby Petrino, he'll never. Yeah,
and on the field, that's important, I get. And off the field, I don't think Michael Vick's ever been arrested, has he? No, I don't believe so. He's had some issues, but he'll get those fixed. But on the field, which I'm focused on right now, I firmly believe that Mike will eventually get it, but he needs some repetition with the same coach for more than 2 or 3 years.
And the signing of Joe Horn in the offseason will absolutely help Michael Vick. And to be fair, he had some incidents this week. He also donated $170,000 this week.
He cares.
To the families and friends of the victims of the Virginia Tech massacre a couple weeks ago. That's one of the reasons why he was here, along with teammate D'Angelo Hall, former Hokies, trying to help everybody get past that moment. Chris Berman, back to you.
All right, Trey, thank you. And here are our fans. There they are. Look at them.
Yeah.
We got Brian Thomas. We got Jericho Conchery. Got Justin Miller. Was that Kevin Carter? They're here. They're still here. Thank you, fellas. And way to go, guys. Here we are back around the far reaches of round 3 here at Radio City Music Hall. Even the Rockettes have left, but our loyal fans are still here. So let's go back. Where are we starting now? We're going to go back to San Francisco. We started talking about Jason Hill. Speed and production, an interesting pick for the 49ers, Mel.
It is, and they need help at wide receiver. Alex Smith needs weapons in the passing game beyond just Vernon Davis. Obviously, Frank Gore running with the football. You watch him here getting deep. He had a lot of touchdown receptions, 32 during his career, second only to Dwayne Jarrett in the Pac-10. Big junior season and the high ankle sprain. We're talking about senior year, not as good as advertised. Getting off press coverage, thought to prove that, but he can run. This kid's a 4.37 40 guy. Won a frame at 6'1", 205 pounds. Verticals 37 inches. Actually can run a 4.32, 4.35 on occasion. So speed to burn, big playability. Obviously, the junior year better than the senior year.
Plus special teams. And I heard, his mother was ill. He spent some time down in the Bay Area where she lived. So he got a little bit heavy this year, but that was his priority. You hear nothing but great things about him, and a great special teams player. Big pickup for the 49ers, I think.
Well, you got to like these names. I'm sorry, Joe. These names are what they've done thus far.
Now, watching those highlights of Jason Hill, he's ready for the NFL. He was pushing off an awful lot. Keyshawn working with him.
He is from the Pac-10.
There you go.
All right, so next, Matt Spaeth, the big tight end, the only guy that broke the string of wide receivers here for Minnesota. Pittsburgh Steelers, they got Heath Miller, but Good pick.
He can block. That's the one thing. He is an extension of your offensive line. 6'7", nearly 270 pounds, a pretty good hands. His father, Ken Spaeth, tight end at Nebraska, drafted in the 5th round of the 1978 draft. Good hands. Thing that he lacks is speed, obviously. That's the problem with Matt Spaeth. He's not going to be able to stretch that deep middle, but he'll block very effectively as an inline blocker, catches the football, even runs hard after the catch. His little quickness. 6'7", 270 pounds. Heath Miller is the pass receiving option. Now you get a guy who can get the job done blocking and very underrated as a receiver. Plays a little faster than his 40 time indicates.
Well, this means now, and of course the Pittsburgh Steelers are hoping that he is the ace of Spaeth that they have drafted. And so now every award winner except the Heisman Trophy Award winner, Troy Smith, has gone in the draft thus far. It's just odd the way that works. Not that we're that surprised, but obviously the Maxwell is gone. The Biletnikoff Award, I mean, no suspense there. The Mackey Award for the tight end, Spaeth won it. He's gone the Outland Trophy, Bednarik Trophy, Butkus Award. Sorry, Dick Butkus spelled a little differently, but the Thorpe Award, the Vince Lombardi Award. They're all gone except for the Heisman. Where does Troy Smith go?
Yeah, you'd have to think all along 3rd or 4th round. Late first day, which we're getting near the end of the first day, or early second day. And really, the Florida game we discussed, that one game against Jarvis Moss, first-round pick of the Denver Broncos, Ray McDonald, who's still not yet off the board, could be a 3rd or 4th round pick. That group, that defensive front for Florida, showed that it's 6 feet even with that longer delivery. Troy Smith could have some trouble in the NFL. With a big game there, he might have been a 2nd-round pick. But right now, you're talking about a 3rd or 4th round pick. And we just heard Charles Johnson, nice pick, the defensive end from Georgia. The junior outplayed Quentin Moses, just came off the board.
The Carolina
Nice
Panthers.
pick. There you go.
Well, we have some issues there because of Mike Rucker. Mike Rucker's coming back off an injury, so we want to make sure that we protect ourselves.
All right, let's go back now. We're going in order here. We're going to show here's the Packers. James Jones, wide receiver, San Jose State, goes to the Green Bay Packers. That was the 78th pick overall if you're scoring at home. San Jose State, you know, they have a pro offense.
6'1", 205 pounds, 207 pounds in that area. Strong kid. 22 reps at the combine. Plays faster than that 4.5, 5.40 and did a nice job for San Jose State. Dick Tomey, the head coach out there, used to be at Arizona and Hawaii. James Jones has some ability. Pretty good hands, good concentration, intriguing football player that I think a lot of people were hoping was a little under the radar. Some thought they could maybe steal this kid in the 4th or 5th round. Here he goes in round 3 to the Green Bay Packers, and he'll have an opportunity. Greg Jennings, good start to his rookie year, tailed off the last month of the season. Brett Favre, these weapons. This kid will have a chance to be that 3rd or 4th option in that Green Bay Packer offense.
Let's go back to Troy Smith a little bit, the Ohio State quarterback, Heisman.
Please do. I love talking quarterback.
Jerry Rome, the former NFL coach and former quarterback, has been working with this guy this offseason. Thinks he's getting the short stick here. Yes, he's short at 6 foot, but Jerry Rome thinks this guy can play in this league.
And I would agree with Jerry Rome. You know, I went back and looked at Troy Smith through his career at Ohio State, and the guy can play at the NFL level. He has a strong arm. He processes information quickly, and he's only 6 foot tall, and I heard a lot about that. But he's a guy that plays 6 foot tall. He plays on his toes. He throws over the top. I've seen quarterbacks that are 6'2", long striders. They play 5'11". I think Troy Smith has 3rd round ability. I think you can get a quarterback in Troy Smith that can play 8 or 10 years as a backup quarterback in the NFL and give you production.
Why can't he be a starter in the NFL?
I don't think he can be a starter.
Ever?
No, I think he has a tough time finding the lanes. He's got to move around a little bit, and he gets inaccurate when he's on the move.
All right, we'll continue to debate and go through the 3rd round picks, but now let's go back up to NFL Live set with Trey, with a young man with a very interesting job, head coach of the Raiders.
That is correct, Chris Berman. Lane Kiffin and the Raiders held the #1 overall pick in this draft, and there was much speculation about what they were going to do. They went with the quarterback out of LSU, Jamarcus Russell, and we now go to Lane Kiffin, the head coach of the Raiders, joining us via Coors Light video conferencing. Lane, how close did you come to taking anybody else? What was the process like deciding on Jamarcus Russell?
Well, it was real easy for us. After a lot of research of all the possible picks and talking to some other people about trading the pick, it became very easy to us that this was the #1 guy by far in this draft and the #1 guy for us. And we just couldn't be more pleased with the way the day went. We really feel it's been a perfect day for us. Getting him there, and then also going and getting what we had as the #1 tight end on our board, a tight end that can play every down, and Zach Miller was really big for us. And then to go down to get him. You know, we went down, took a chance he'd still be there, and still own every pick that we started the day with. but have added Mike Williams and Josh McCown, a starting quarterback in this league, and a former first round. It couldn't be better for us.
Lane, how many teams did you talk to about potentially trading that #1 pick?
A couple teams, a couple different scenarios, but in the end, there was nothing that could move us off of making sure that we got the quarterback and the player that we wanted in Jamarcus Russell.
You mentioned the trade for Mike Williams. Obviously, you go back with him at USC. You have a connection there. Lane, it hasn't worked out for Mike Williams at the National Football League level. What makes you think it will work out in Oakland?
I'm not really worried about the negatives or what has happened earlier with Mike. I'm going off of what I know about Mike and how Mike's been with me. I've known him for a long time, and we're excited about adding him, and I know he's excited about being here.
You get Mike Williams, you get the tight end. Randy Moss, there's been a lot of speculation, Lane, that he will not be there when the season begins. What is the status right now of Randy Moss on this team? Are you trying to trade him?
Randy's on our team right now. We've talked a couple of different scenarios over, but he's here right now, and we're pleased to have him.
Lane, before we let you go, I think there's somebody else with a USC background that may want to chime in on this. Caller, go ahead, please, from New York.
Lane, how are you? This is Keyshawn. I just want to say good luck, man, and you having a hell of a draft right now.
Keyshawn, appreciate it. I know that you're probably excited for Mike, and I know that you can't wait to see him play like he used to.
And I know you'll put him in the right positions to do a good job.
Yeah, I just don't know if I'm ever going to be able to have Dwayne Jarrett forgive me, because I know he's already on. I already got a message from him for passing him in the draft, but I know he's going to be great out there.
I'm going to take care of him and do a good job, so good luck again, Lane.
Good. I know you did a good job bringing Mike Williams along for us. Now you can bring Dwayne Jarrett along for you guys.
And I will do that. I assure you that.
See, this is what we do. Right. We bring people together on the draft, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, now just bring Sean Salisbury will be all right.
Now, Lane, we're all trying to be positive here. You don't want to go down that road. Lane, we appreciate it. Best of luck this season with the Raiders.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Lane Kiffin with us, who had the Cards, the first overall pick.
I watched him play high school football, and now he's coaching. It's amazing how fast track he's been on, and he'll be fine. He knows how to put an offense on the field, man.
And here you sit.
What went wrong?
I don't know. But we go back to the issue.
I'm still waiting to be drafted.
No,
it ain't happening.
Here's the issue about what happened and what Lane Kiffin just said. If you were able to read between the lines,
no question.
At this time, Randy Moss is here. That's what I got out of it. So I don't think Randy Moss is going to be with this team.
Well, Jerry Porter, Randy Moss, Mike Williams. Which way are you going to go? They bring Mike in and Lane. Mike Williams' best football was when Lane Kiffin was coaching him at Southern Cal. So if that's where they're going to go, and he has not had a good start to an NFL career, and obviously he's excited, and sometimes a change of scenery can be great. The other side of it is, with Randy Moss, you know what, I'm to the point now where I take what I could get, whether it's a 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round. If he doesn't want to be there, I don't want him there. And he sure as heck can't be my captain in 2007.
Well, last I heard, just to update the Randy Moss situation, they had a conditional 4th round pick in next year's draft that could increase to a 3rd rounder from New England. There was a conditional 3rd round pick in next year's draft that could increase to a 2nd rounder. Another team is supposedly involved. Unfortunately, I can't identify that team right now, but Al Davis is trying to just get the most value he can for Randy Moss, and that was the goal all along. Also, there's the hurdle of restructuring the contract, due $20 million over the course of the next 2 seasons. That's a difficult thing for another team to do, is to get him to reduce that contract. But, you know, they're clearly trying to shop Randy Moss. The only thing is, he's still coming.
If not, they'll cut him if they can't shop him.
The bottom line is here, you bring in a young quarterback in Jamarcus Russell, and you don't want to have Randy Moss, Jerry Porter, and Mike Williams be the guys that are trying to tell him how to get
Trey, let's not forget what division they're playing.
AFC West is no layup drill. Just ask San Diego, just ask Denver about that, and Kansas City's going to have something to say about that as well. The Raiders, we'll see 5 years from now if this was the draft that turned it around.
So y'all gonna buy it, go too deep. Supposed to catch that.
Go ahead. Call Marcus Colston a tweener. He's a physical specimen at 6'4", 223, and he shattered receiving records at Hofstra, but the scouts still didn't bite. They said he was too slow to be a receiver and too skinny to play tight end. When the 2006 draft came along, Marcus fell all the way to the 7th round, number 252. But the Saints snatched him up and never looked back. Colston clicked with grease from day one, scored a touchdown in his first game, and went on to catch 70 balls for over 1,000 yards, helping the Saints to a magical season and reviving an entire city along the way. You can call him a tweener, but the only thing he's between is a standout rookie year and a bright future in New Orleans.
The draft matters. Go deep. The NFL draft presented by Coors Light continues tomorrow at 11 a.m. on ESPN.
Coach, would you like to lose that suit and tie and crack open a cold Coors Light?
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure, yes.
I mean, we all think Coors Light is totally refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a number of people are beginning to come to that conclusion.
So why drink any other beer?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Frost Brewed Coors Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
Coach, a little help with these empties?
Oh, sorry. I certainly haven't come here to, to clean house.
What's going on here?
Josh stole my Kit Kat Blizzard, and he won't give it back!
Josh.
Dad!
Sure you don't want it? Hey!
Hang on to yours. The new Kit Kat Blizzard at Dairy Queen. Real chunks of Kit Kat chocolate bars and our famous DQ soft serve. Do one.
ESPN's coverage of the NFL Draft is presented by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. And in part by Hummer, proud sponsor of the 2007 NFL Draft. Hummer, like nothing else.
All right, we're going right video wall here, Mel. We're continuing on with the third round. Jacksonville picked Mike Walker, wide receiver from Central Florida.
Played on both sides of the ball at Central Florida. Cornerback in the secondary, wide receiver. Knee injury as a junior. We talked about that. Came back. Reverted back to his old form, looked pretty good. Ran a 4.35 at the combine, 6'1.5", 207-pounder. So Jacksonville likes bigger receivers. Seems like they have down there.
Big everywhere.
And I'll tell you what, they do. They like size. Is something the physical prowess of these players certainly, and Mike Walker can get it done. Brandon Marshall was there last year, ended up going to the Denver Broncos. Now Mike Walker, if he can stay healthy, the knee injuries behind him could be a factor on a football team. And obviously, another wide receiver is not going to hurt. That group needs somebody to step forward.
They need competition at that position. That's what Jack Del Rio, the coach, is trying to do, is create competition to get Matt Jones going, Reggie Williams, and what have you. That's what they're trying to do in Jacksonville at the receiver spot.
Paul Williams to Tennessee. The Titans finally get a wide receiver into the mix, something they desperately need for Vince Young. And Paul Williams, another guy with good size at 6'1.5", 203 to 205 pounds. Runs well, had a great junior year. You see an ability there. This kid can adjust to the football. And I think when you look at his hands, pretty good. A guy that had some injury issues as a senior, didn't catch a lot of passes. The quarterback was new. The offense, the overall football team was struggling. So his productivity dropped dramatically, but he's going to help out on special teams right away as a rookie and be a developmental young wide receiver.
So here's with the Titans. Griffin and Henry, and now Paul Williams. So this is the serious run of wide receivers, which ended with the 81st pick when the New York Football Giants stepped up to the plate and picked Jay Alford, defensive tackle from Penn State.
Decent football player, 6'3", 300 pounds, made his presence felt on occasion, needs to be part more of a rotation in a backup role. Not the greatest athlete, not necessarily the quickest, but he found a way to do some damage on that defensive line for Penn State. And they didn't have Tamba Ali. This guy was kind of the focal point. He had a lot of graduation losses, yet he did a pretty good job. You see him there, number 13, getting into the backfield, gets a decent push. Combine workout, just average, but his overall productivity, you forget about the computer numbers not being very impressive, you figure he can maybe be a backup for the New York Giants along the defensive front.
So the Giants with Aaron Ross in the first round, the corner from Texas, the slot receiver Steve Smith, USC, and Jay Alford, the defensive tackle from Penn State. And then came Tank Tyler, picked by the Kansas City Chiefs, defensive tackle for NC State, All-ACC first team, and NC State had some players a year ago, didn't they?
He was
Mario Williams, Fargo, and Lawson.
Exactly. And you look at it, DeMario Presley's another kid there. It'll be a nice pick next year to watch out for. But you watch him here, number 72, along that interior. Was really an average prospect coming into this year. Turned it up several notches. 6'2 1/4", 310-pounder with a 42 bench press at the combine. Tremendous upper body strength, quickness. The Boston College game, he did a great job. He wreaked havoc against the Eagles, who have a pretty good offensive line. Josh Bateman, a very good interior lineman, should be a 3rd or 4th round pick coming. This is actually the game against Boston College where he was a force to be reckoned with. Beat Josh Bateman there right off the staff. You see there, number 75. I said Bateman not yet selected. Figured to be a 3rd round pick, possibly maybe even a late 2nd. He's still on the board. Add him to the defensive front that already added Turk McBride, who has some versatility to play end or tackle.
So they have a Turk and a Tank on Kansas City.
Yeah, let's talk about Tank Tyler real quick here, though. Tank Tyler, it's interesting. Herm Edwards was one of the flag bearers on this character issue with the league. Tank Tyler was one of the guys graded way down because of his character. You know, had some different assault of a police officer, had several red flags there. So obviously Herm Edwards believes that he passes their test or I'll get him to fall in line, because this was a guy who cost himself some money.
He can play. What I just say a little while ago, if the guy can play, those
I
coaches
understand that,
right now.
But Herm was one of the guys who stood up at the league meeting and talked about character.
And he helped us win.
And they are getting him in the 3rd round. So I'm just
okay.
And Herm Edwards is the type of coach.
Accountability here, Jaws.
But Herm Edwards is the type of coach that can get a guy in line.
Well, and if he doesn't, the guy will be gone. But
on ability, Tank Tyler was a late 1st, early 2nd rounder. You get him in towards the end of round 3. So again,
yes,
if he stays focused on the job at hand, the kid has a chance to be a pretty good defensive tackle in the NFL.
All right, back to the task at hand. We would go to the Carolina Panthers. Keyshawn with Charles Johnson, defensive end from Georgia. He knocked down a lot of passes. Had a pretty good wingspan, I guess.
Did a heck of a job. Outproduced Quentin Moses. We talked about him earlier. I was shocked that he was not a 2nd round pick or an early 3rd round pick, and he ends up going towards the end of round 3 to the Carolina Panthers. You watch him here, get after the quarterback, make an impact game after game. This kid was a force. He doesn't quit on plays, even if he's not a major factor. Gets his hands up, bats down passes. Very active football player. And I'll tell you what, yeah, the pad level there was good. Gets the sack.
I was looking for the wingspan.
You can't go wrong taking Georgia players, but what a disappointment. Keyshawn, I mean, this guy was a junior. I agree with Mel. Had he stayed in school, we're talking about a 1st round draft pick.
That's okay. He has Julius Peppers on the other side, Mike Rucker coming off an injury. We want to protect ourselves so we can get to the Super Bowl. We don't have time to worry about whether or not he's a junior. He's good enough for us to take the 3rd round.
Get the pom-poms out here. Keyshawn's ready to go.
At least one last run, huh?
A couple of USC players, of course, on that list of 4 drafted by Carolina. Then St. Louis. They stepped up next, and they went defensive backfield. They selected quarterback from Tennessee, Jonathan Wade, originally recruited as a wide receiver. And, so many times in Tennessee, 20-plus years of doing the draft, here's another one coming from the track team, member of the school's 4x100 relay team.
Exactly.
Tennessee.
Remember Terry Fair came out of Tennessee, similar background with the Detroit Lions. Yep. Didn't really pan out. You look at this kid, former wide receiver, track star, 5'11", 193 pounds, tremendous vertical jump, great leaping ability, jumping ability in coverage, 40.5-inch vertical, great recovery speed, guesses a little too much, relies a little too much on his athletic prowess, still learning the position, little raw, but a kid who had some very good games in the SEC for this Tennessee Volunteer program. As a former wide receiver, he has some ability in terms of ball skills. So a guy in the 3rd round for his athleticism at a cornerback spot where athleticism and speed you need to be effective in this league, not a bad choice for the St. Louis Rams, who also took Brian Leonard back in round 2 out of Rutgers.
How many picks is this for Tennessee? It seems like every time I look up, somebody from Tennessee is going. I mean,
you're in the Southeastern Conference. You got a chance to get drafted on the first day.
What about the program?
They get some players at the University of Texas.
That's about 10 picks out of the University of Tennessee.
And they're all track stars. And I don't care. They're just every guy's a track star. Now, the Seahawks who again did not have a first. So here they are in the third round. Brandon McBain, defensive tackle from California, had a better 05 than 06, Mel.
He did, but I tell you, he was double teamed, triple teamed. They really knew that this is a guy we had a handle in the interior there, number 52, a kid who works hard. He would make a big play. He'd get in the backfield and you'd say, wow, this guy's being disruptive. Then you wouldn't hear from him for a while. He'd kind of get pushed around a little bit. So kind of a hit or miss type of guy in terms of the Cal. Overall, though, a guy that gives you everything he has. Great work ethic. A guy that I think can at worst be a rotation defensive tackle, a backup. I think the attitude, the character, and the intensity level the Seattle Seahawks will like on their defensive line at that tackle spot.
So they went for defense, a couple of positions here. They may be in the market wide receiver. We'll see if Darrell Jackson gets.
What about tight end? Jeremy Stevens is gone, and tight end's supposed to be big in that offense.
Well, they're going to be looking. They got Marcus Pollard. I mean, he's older.
They can buy him sometime.
That's who they have. They didn't get Fritz Pollard. They got Marcus Pollard.
Need help.
Now, Baltimore in a trade with the Jacksonville spot. They get a bunch of picks tomorrow. Jacksonville does for this spot, but Marshall, help me, Yanda, the tackle and guard from Iowa.
Well, a right tackle prospect or a guard prospect. You say, hey, Adam Terry's going to be at right tackle. Tony Pasho's moved on in free agency. This kid has a chance to compete at a guard or tackle, and obviously at right tackle could be a factor right away. 6'4", 305 pounds, played for Kirk Ferentz. You know, he was well coached, fundamentally sound, technically sound, and I think that connection, Kirk Ferentz and the Baltimore Ravens, Mort, may have been a factor in this.
No question it's a factor, and you got to like it. Willis McGahee, when the Ravens got him, you sit there and say, who's going to block for him? Jonathan Ogden's coming back. They pick up the two linemen now in this draft, so Willis McGahee's breathing a little easier right now.
And so the Baltimore Ravens, here's what they've done. You saw that. And now Stuart Bradley, and I used to have hair like this. Linebacker from Nebraska goes to Philadelphia. Andy used to have hair like that. Maybe that's
long time ago.
Durability again with this kid is a bit of an issue. He's had some injury problems at Nebraska, but big at 6'3.5", 252 pounds. Could be an outside linebacker in a 3-4 day. Everybody seemed to think he had the versatility to help out depending upon the defensive structure in a lot of ways. Ran pretty well at the combine at 250 plus pounds. Ran a 4.72. Strong kid, athletic. When he's on the field, he was productive. The thing is, can you keep him on the field from an injury standpoint? If you can, this is a decent choice in round 3. I know several teams had an interest in this kid that I had spoken to. I thought he might even go a little earlier than this, maybe the end of the second, early third, but Philadelphia picks him up here, at pick 87. Not a bad choice for Andy Reid and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, there's a guy that could have been a second rounder, right? I mean, I didn't through that. And then New Orleans came up and picked Andy Elliman, the tackle from the Zips of Akron.
Former Pitt Panther and a good football player. Came there from Pitt and did a real nice job in the Mid-American Conference.
And then you just might have heard a nice round of applause from the folks who were left here. We're all wearing the VT for Virginia Tech, and there's a chance that 3 or 4 players might go today and tomorrow in the draft. Well, Aaron Rouse, defensive back for Virginia Tech, the first Hokie to go in the draft. And so all of us remember that at the beginning, before the draft even started, they had Bruce Smith, they had Michael Vick out here, D'Angelo Hall, Coach Frank Beamer. Let us never forget what happened at Virginia Tech, the tragedy and those affected. And this was the scene about 10 minutes before the draft. There's Bruce Smith, the future Hall of Famer for the Buffalo Bills, Commissioner Roger Goodell, talking about Virginia Tech. And there's Coach Beamer at the end, and Michael Vick. And then here's Aaron Rouse now, who goes. And there'll be others, probably tomorrow. Aaron Rouse, the safety, for 6'4", 223, big kid.
We've had 5 safeties of consequence already selected. I think you get into this next tier. Savvy Piscatelli also went. Aaron Rouse, as you said, boom, 6'4", 221 pounds. Good speed, very athletic, a little stiff in coverage, okay? So I think you look at that ability in that area, but a kid who has size, made some big plays at Virginia Tech, has the physical prowess. I think there's some concerns about how he'll be in coverage at the pro level.
A lot of people rooting for him, and of course everybody there. That says it in a nutshell.
Slipping back a little bit, in the middle of this third round, the Cincinnati Bengals did not have a pick because they had exercised the pick in the supplemental draft before the season. They used that pick on Ahmad Brooks, the Virginia linebacker. Marvin Lewis of the Bengals says he has had a terrific offseason. He got 5 starts in last year, and they think Ahmad Brooks is going to be a pretty doggone good starter in this league. So that's a supplemental draft, a third-round pick. And the Bengals think they found a linebacker there in Brooks.
All right, we have 10, 11 picks left, and we have a couple of thoughts on some names that should be out there. Very interesting tomorrow. We got some of the best teams left in football left with their third-round picks. We'll be back.
Yamon Figures.
We need speed. My name is Yamon Figures. You watch NFL Draft on ESPN.
Introducing the all-new Lincoln MKX Luxury Crossover. An entirely new approach to luxury from every angle. With a top pick for safety and the confidence of all-wheel drive, the Lincoln MKX raises the roof. The all-new Lincoln MKX Luxury Crossover starts at this great price. From the newest family of luxury vehicles, Lincoln.
Now get all your favorites in one box. Introducing the new Variety Big Box from KFC. Popcorn chicken, a crispy strip, a drumstick, mashed potatoes, coleslaw, a biscuit, and a large drink. Fill up on all your favorites at KFC.
Just a bit outside.
That was a perfect strike. If this chump were watching in DirecTV HD, he'd have seen that. Let's see how this bruise looks in HD.
For the most sports in HD, get DirecTV. And now, life without Roadrunner.
Oh! Dude, what's the deal? You just got owned. Thanks to you. It's not me, Chief. It's your DSL. You want an online advantage? You need Roadrunner High Speed Online. How can I compete without Roadrunner? One word for you. Not gonna happen. BAM! Again!
Call 643-2337 to get a 30-day free trial of Hawaii's fastest internet service. Time Warner Cable, the power of you.
The girls of the OIA are ready to take the season to another level. It's the postseason here on OC16, where you'll see the best teams in the OIA battle it out for their quest to claim the league's top prize. Be sure to tune in this Friday night, live from Mililani High School Gymnasium. It's the OIA quarterfinals. First game of the doubleheader tips off at 5:30. OIA girls basketball, the playoff edition. The only place you'll see it is OC16.
Brought to you by Zippy's, Pizza Hut, and the Tony Group Autoplex.
Cleveland Browns select left tackle Joe Thomas, Wisconsin. Ted Ginn.
We all expect Brady Quinn, quarterback from Notre Dame, to have a long wait at this point.
Marshawn Lynch.
Adam Carricker.
The teams aren't disclosing much right now.
Darrell Revis. Lawrence Timmons.
So at this point now, what's your game plan?
I think really just kind of sitting back and waiting. I mean, there's nothing else really you can do. Maybe ordering some food or something, because we don't know how long we're going to be here.
Justin Harrell. Chris Moss. Leon Hall. Michael Griffin, Aaron Ross. The Cleveland Browns select Brady Quinn, quarterback, Notre Dame.
That took a little longer than he thought, but Brady Quinn, the hometown boy, does play for the Cleveland Browns, now selected 22nd overall. Time for Hummer 3 and out right now in this part of the draft. And guys, it's a real simple question. They trade the Cleveland Browns back into the first round to get Brady Quinn. Did they give up too much to get him their first from next year to the Dallas Cowboys?
Absolutely, because if you look at Cleveland, they're not going to the playoffs next year. This could be a top 10 pick, and you break this down, the next quarterback that's picked is Kevin Cobb out of Houston at 36. Well, that was Cleveland's second-round pick. Apparently, no one else is going to pick a quarterback earlier than the 36th pick, and if that's the case, they gave up too much.
Yeah, but Romeo Crennel is in a position where he's got to get something done now. Now, when you look at that team, there's not a surefire starter at quarterback on that team. I don't believe they gave up too much for Brady Quinn at all because, you know, I'm not worried about 2008 because I don't know what kind of players are going to be there with injuries and drafts. I know if I like the quarterback, then I'm going to draft him. In essence, they got two guys they expect to play and play early in the first round. Brady Quinn's one of them. I think at 22nd pick, you got yourself a pretty doggone good steal.
Sean, I got good news for you, bro. Quarterback's the most important position on the team.
Tell me something I don't know.
All right, so
is there also points in the passing game?
Yeah, well, look, if Baltimore give up a first-round pick,
you can't teach that either.
If Baltimore give up a first-round pick for Kyle Bowler, I think you can give up a first-rounder for Brady Quinn.
Well, that worked out, because it didn't work out for the Ravens and Bowler.
Well, we don't know what kind of. This is a highly touted player, is what I'm trying to say. The point is this: when they took Joe Thomas at the 3rd pick, that was not a commentary on their existing quarterback saying we're set at quarterback. They just thought they can get by taking a franchise left tackle, upgrading pass protection in the run game. Now they get the quarterback spot. They couldn't compete with anybody without a surefire quarterback. As Sean mentioned, Romeo, Phil Savage, they got to win now. You can't think about 2008, and nor can you go into this draft saying, well, we're not going to be any good this year either, so we're scared of giving up a high pick.
Michael, they're not going to win now with a rookie left tackle and a rookie quarterback.
They're upgraded at both spots.
But they also believe he's a top 10
all
pick.
of this
So if he's a top 10 pick, you got drafted.
Just don't bring up Kyle Bowler.
No, okay, fine. Bad analogy. The point is they upgraded both spots in the
Guys, hang on a minute. One of the guys we've been hanging with all night long is on the phone. That is Trent Edwards, the former quarterback out of Stanford. A lot of people thought he'd go in the 2nd round. It has been people talking about Brady Quinn's wait. Forget it. Okay, this guy's been waiting since the draft started. He is on the phone right now in Los Gatos, California. Something could finally be happening with Trent Edwards, and as soon as we get confirmation whether or not he has been picked,
what a good young kid he is. Nice young man.
And we told him, don't go to sleep on it, like Thurman Thomas said, and he said, I won't go to sleep on you. We're not going to sleep on you.
He's the kind of guy you root for.
We're all in this together with Trent Edwards at this point. I'm sure Chris Boom and company in New York are feeling the same way, right, Boom?
I mean, they're making him a starter.
Of course, Trey. Welcome back here to New York. We've had a couple of interesting developments. You just talked about Trent Edwards, and he is now selected by the Buffalo Bills. Just with the 92nd overall pick. Trent Edwards, quarterback, Stanford, just selected by Buffalo. This is after a year when J.P. Losman made big strides. Their backup right now is Craig Null. Remember, Holcomb, who was battling for the job at the beginning, went on to Philly. So, certainly room. And why not try it?
Yeah, and J.P. Losman has that one good year. You know, once he got 16 starts under his belt, he started to really come on. But here's a guy, Mel, certainly for Steve Fairchild, their offensive coordinator, I think fits what they do as they develop him for a couple of years and see how Losman also develops.
Yeah, it's not like this kid was hurt his entire career. He had injuries, but he really had a great junior year for Stanford. He never had the great supporting cast. Offensive line, always disappointing, not effective. Wide receivers injured this year. As I said, offensive line this year, terrible. Then the injury, but I think when you look back at the junior year, how highly regarded he was coming out of high school, big kid with a strong arm, why not? I mean, I had thought he was a better prospect than Kevin Cobb, who went earlier to Philadelphia, and you get him here towards the end of round 3, see what happens. He's going to have a chance to sit and watch and learn anyway and adjust to the NFL. And then if he can stay healthy in the preseason, he's going to get some playing time there, and it's all about J.P. Losman right now.
Yeah, Mel, in regards to those injuries, I've talked to a couple trainers around the NFL. They said they had no problem with the shoulder injury, although there was a little bit of a loose knee at the combine, but that was not a problem either. So I think the injury standpoint, Trent Edwards will be fine. I had him ranked as my number 4 quarterback. So from the Buffalo Bills perspective, I believe they get value at this pick. Now, as Morcha said a moment ago, J.P. Losman really came on the second half of last season. So I think, once again, it's going to create some competition, which is always good, healthy competition, especially in Buffalo, a team that's on the rise.
And for some reason, if let's just say Losman goes south, or they don't work out a contract with him a couple years down the line, they have a guy who's been in their system, if that's the way it plays out.
This is a good pick for the kid, because if you think about it, think about the history of these quarterbacks that have come into the league, from Akili Smith to Tim Couch. If they were 3rd-round picks or 2nd-round picks, they probably would still be in the league, because there's not a lot of pressure on guys.
Who knows, if he shows enough ability in preseason and JP's a star, then Trent Edwards all of a sudden becomes hot commodity and somebody wants to trade for him and give you maybe a 2nd-round draft. So you never know how it's going to pan out.
Like a Matt Schaub, or what the Green Bay Packers have always done. Even as they had Brett Favre, they drafted the Brunells, the Aaron Brooks. I mean, it's on and on. So
go back to a couple years ago, or several years ago, when the Buffalo Bills traded for Rob Johnson after he had some good games with Jacksonville. They were able to get a number 1 after a guy got drafted behind Brunell.
You know, now that I got my 4th-rated quarterback, Trent Edwards, out there, I got to start lobbying for a number 5. Matt Moore, the quarterback from Oregon State, was my 5th-ranked quarterback. Guys out there, take another look at Matt Moore tonight. All you scouts at the board tonight, take a look at Matt Moore. I'm telling you, I'm lobbying.
Talking more quarterbacks now?
Yeah, I always.
All right, this is a day when we've gone from A to Z, and I'm going to throw in a quarterback. The guy won the greatest game in the history of college football, Jared Zabransky from Boise State. He throws an interception, and the game is lost against Oklahoma, leads him right down the field. You know what kind of plays they ran, but the moxie to lead him back. I don't care, well, the speed isn't. The guy wins. So Jared Zabransky, pay attention tomorrow from Boise State. And while we're on the Z's, we don't have many draft picks at our school. Fritz Pollard, they didn't have the draft. John Heisman, he went to Brown, they didn't have the draft then. Zach Diassi, linebacker, inside linebacker, is a long snapper as well. Son of Steve Diassi, who played for a decade for Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick. Zach Diassi from Brown University has a chance to go 4-5. Steve Jordan went until 7th round pick. So 2 Z's tomorrow. Keep your eyes out for it. Okay,
Can I get some
Agree?
Z's?
Yeah, we need some Z's.
Zach Diassi's going to go before Zabransky, don't you?
Zach Diassi's a good football player. Zach Diassi will be a great special teams player as a long snapper. And long snapping, if you're effective and you can make some plays down the field after you snap the ball, make a tackle, Zach Diassi can do that. He's going to have a long career in the NFL. And certainly Jared Zabransky reminds me a little bit, guys, of Jeff Garcia. Has that little quality, that instinctive quality, that innate quality, just to make things happen. As he did, Boom, as you said, in the Oklahoma game. Shook off adversity, came back and made a play. Kid has some ability. There's no question. This kid has some talent.
That's exactly the name that Mike Martz mentioned when talking about Zabransky was Jeff Garcia. Very competitive guy. He's a bigger Jeff Garcia.
He wins. He wins. All right, so we got him in. The Z's.
Got them all in.
Remember tomorrow. All right, now, last 3 picks. The Eagles took a running back. Tony Hunt, Penn State, picked by the Philadelphia Eagles. Then, believe it or not, we had another trade. Well, let's go with Hunt first. As 1,300 yards last year in the Big Ten for Joe Paterno. So Tony Hunt picked by Philly.
You know, I think he was looking for a guy that give him some short yardage running power, and that's what Tony Hunt's going to give him. You know, running back to run between the tackles.
Good size, Jones, at 6'1 and a half, 230. One of those gliding, very patient runners. Has decent quickness, not spectacular explosiveness, but I think the ball security. I noticed sometimes at Penn State this year, not good ball security, would fumble the ball away. Penn State recovered some of those fumbles, so I didn't get credit with a fumble that was lost, but I think at the pro level, he's going to have to make sure that he takes care of business in that area, can catch the ball. Not a dynamic runner, not super elusive, but he's one of those guys. Remember Lawrence McCutcheon in the NFL?
Played with him.
A little bit of Lawrence McCutcheon I saw in Tony Hunt.
That's super.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's pretty darn good. Tony Hunt McCutcheon. Woo.
If he's Lawrence McCutcheon, then the Eagles just got
They got an all-pro.
Marion Barber.
I mean, and the Penn State, only Kurt Warner, what a marvelous back he was. Who knows what would have happened if his knee did blow out after a couple of years with the Seahawks. By the way, Lawrence McCutcheon had a twin brother named Larry McCutcheon. I'm not kidding. That's a true story, but we digress. You get this information late in the third. See, Mario Henderson tackled. New England was in the spot. Oakland traded up a good 91 to make a trade, so he goes there. Now, we began at 11 with the pregame. It's 11 now. The 100 Days War took less time than the first 3 rounds of this draft. We still have a few picks to go. If you tuned in late, we'll forgive you just this once. Here's what happened at the beginning. Jamarcus Russell, quarterback, LSU, to their 80s. Calvin Johnson, wide receiver, goes to Detroit. Who cares if they drafted all the wide receivers? Here's another one. Joe Thomas and Brady Quinn. No, we're going to take Joe Thomas out on a fishing excursion in Lake Michigan. Was the big tackle from Wisconsin, goes to the Browns. Gaines Adams, first defensive player. The defensive end Clemson goes to the Tampa Bay Bucks as they try to resurrect their once very proud defense. Levi Brown, very comfortable in jeans, goes to the Arizona Cardinals. The offensive tackle from Penn State. LaRon Landry again. Landry going to the Redskins. That's an eye-opener. But the safety, he and Sean Taylor will be hitters back there for Washington. Adrian Peterson, the mercurial back, goes as running back to the Minnesota Vikings. Jamal Anderson, defensive in Arkansas, picked by Bobby Petrino, the new coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Then Ted Ginn Jr., the eyebrow raiser, kick and punt return extraordinaire, speed to kill, goes to the Miami Dolphins. A curveball, Moby Okoye, the 19-year-old defensive tackle from Louisville, goes to the Houston Texans. Patrick Willis, the productive linebacker on the inside from Mississippi, goes to the 49ers. And Marshawn Lynch, the hard running, give me the ball 100 times running back, goes from California to the Buffalo Bills. Story of the first round, if at first you don't succeed, Brady Quinn, Dublin, Ohio, about 2-3 hours away from Cleveland, grew up with, I like the Cleveland Browns. He's heartbroken when maybe Cleveland didn't pick him 3. Cleveland ends up going back in the first round, trading down with Dallas' spot at 22 overall, and they get Brady Quinn. After all, it became a dream to a nightmare to a happy ending all in one day for Brady Quinn. Quarterbacks drafted, they were the 2 in the first round. 6 hours and 8 minutes. It took forever. 17 trades thus far. We still have a few to go. We had a 25-year-old drafted. We had a 19-year-old drafted. And by the way, we got a few of the young head coach who you know, Lane Kiffin of USC, by the way, just to the side. Makes Eric Mangini look like Marv Levy. You know?
I remember.
It's just an observation after 12 hours.
I don't want to tell you when I first met Lane because he was real small, but he's a little taller right now.
He was Lane, now he's a Rose.
Yes.
I would think by now, sitting through the draft and trying to figure out who is going to take that facial hair would have grown by now.
Yeah.
Ours has.
Definitely.
A couple of choices for the Bears, the Colts, then 4 compensatory picks. And Trent Edwards did go to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills circling a wagon with Trent Edwards as we steamroll toward the end